They said she was cursed, a walking disaster, the girl who brought the storms. When Elara Voss stumbled into the North Cascades with blood on her hands and lightning in her veins, she thought the wilderness would swallow her whole. She was wrong. What found her instead was something far more dangerous, a wolf with human eyes, and a claim she couldn't accept. Ronan Virek, the alpha who could smell her fear from miles away, who saw past her broken exterior to the weapon she'd been running from her entire life. This is the story of the hunted who became the hunter, the outcast who became a queen. Stay until the end. You won't believe how this ends. Drop a comment with your city. I want to know who's watching. The cabin stank of rot and old fear. Elara pressed her back against splintered wood, feeling the rough grain catch on her torn jacket. Her breath came in short gasps that fogged in the freezing air. 3 days without food, 2 without sleep. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking, and it wasn't just from the cold. Outside, something moved through the trees. Not something, someone. She'd learned the difference in the 6 months since everything fell apart. Things moved with purpose, with the mechanical precision of hunters following a scent. People moved with hesitation, with the irregular rhythm of thought and choice. This was a person. But that didn't mean she was safe. Elara's fingers found the rusted pipe she'd pried from the wall earlier. Pathetic weapon. But it was all she had, and she'd learned that survival meant using whatever was at hand. The organization that had raised her, the Covenant, had taught her that much before she'd discovered what they really were, before she'd learned what she really was. The footsteps stopped just outside the door. I know you're in there. The voice was male, deep, with an edge that made her pulse spike. I can hear your heartbeat. Elara bit down on her lower lip hard enough to taste copper. Impossible. The door was solid wood, the walls thick with decades of accumulated grime and insulation. No one could hear through that. Your fear smells like ozone, the voice continued. Closer now. Like the air before lightning strikes, which means you're either terrified or about to do something stupid, possibly both. She gripped the pipe tighter. The metal felt slick under her palms. I'm not with them, he said. The ones hunting you. I'm not Covenant. That's exactly what someone from the Covenant would say. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Small victory. A pause. Then, something that might have been a laugh. Fair point, but if I were Covenant, you'd already be unconscious in the back of a van. They don't announce themselves. Also fair. The strike teams that had come for her in Seattle hadn't bothered with conversation. Just tranquilizer darts and zip ties, and the cold efficiency of people who'd done this 100 times before. She'd barely escaped, had left bodies behind. Her hands still remembered the feeling of lightning arcing from her fingertips, the smell of burned flesh, the screaming. I'm coming in, the voice said. Don't do anything we'll both regret. The door swung open before she could respond. The man who stepped through was not what she expected. She'd been braced for tactical gear, for the sterile professionalism of Covenant operatives. Instead, she got someone who looked like he'd walked out of a wilderness catalog. Heavy boots, worn jeans, a flannel shirt under a canvas jacket. Dark hair pulled back in a short ponytail. Stubble that suggested he hadn't seen a razor in days. But it was his eyes that stopped her cold. Amber. Not brown, not hazel. Actual amber, like backlit honey, with the intensity that felt wrong in a human face. Those eyes tracked over her with an assessment that was almost physical, cataloging injuries, threat level, escape routes. Predator's eyes. You look like hell, he said bluntly. You look like you shouldn't be here. Elara raised the pipe, trying to ignore how badly her arms were shaking. Turn around, leave. Forget you saw me. Can't do that. Why not? His expression shifted into something complicated. Because you're in my territory. Because you smell like trouble I can't ignore. And because... He stopped, jaw tightening. Because you need help whether you want it or not. I don't need anything from you. You're starving, hypothermic, running on fumes. He took a step forward. Whatever you're running from found you in Seattle. It'll find you here too. This cabin, it's been abandoned for 20 years. Everyone local knows about it. If I found you, they will too. Elara's grip on the pipe faltered. How did you find you? I'm a ranger. This is my job. Another step. Also, you left a trail a blind man could follow. Broken branches, disturbed snow, and your scent is all over the access road. My scent. Everyone has one. Yours is... He trailed off, something shifting behind those strange eyes. Distinctive. The way he said it made her skin prickle. Not threatening exactly, but weighted with meaning she couldn't decode. I don't care who you are or what you think you know, Elara said. I'm not going anywhere with you. Then you'll die here. No emotion in his voice, just fact. Temperatures dropping, storm coming in tonight. This cabin has holes in the roof and no heat source. You'll be dead by morning. That's my problem. It becomes mine when I have to explain to the county why I let someone freeze to death on federal land. He crossed his arms. I'm Ronan Vierick. I manage this sector. And you're going to let me help you, or I'm calling in a rescue team, and you can explain to them why you're hiding in the mountains with no supplies and what looks like electrical burns on your hands. Elara's stomach dropped. She'd wrapped her hands in strips torn from her shirt, but apparently it wasn't enough. The lightning had left marks, spiderweb patterns across her palms that looked exactly like what they were. Evidence of what she could do, what she was. I don't want a rescue team, she said quietly. Then come with me. To where? Somewhere warm, with food, where we can talk without you passing out from malnutrition. Ronan's expression softened slightly. Look, I don't know what you're running from, but I know scared when I see it, and whatever has you this terrified, you don't have to face it alone. Something in his voice cracked through her defenses. Not pity, she would have rejected pity, but understanding. Like he knew exactly what it felt like to be hunted, to be alone, to have nowhere left to run. If you try anything, she started. You'll what? Hit me with that pipe? He glanced at her makeshift weapon. You can try, but you're exhausted and I'm not. This doesn't have to be a fight, Elara. Her name in his mouth jolted her. How do you know my name? I don't, I guessed. You look like an Elara. He held up his hands, palms out. Or you can tell me I'm wrong and give me the real one. She shouldn't. Giving him her name was giving him power, ammunition, a way to track her. But standing in that freezing cabin with her last reserves of strength fading, watching this stranger who'd somehow found her in the middle of nowhere offer help instead of handcuffs. It's Elara, she admitted. Elara Voss. Elara Voss. He repeated it like he was testing the weight. Okay. Elara Voss, who breaks into abandoned cabins and has lightning scars on her hands. You want to tell me the story, or should I keep guessing? I want you to pretend you never saw me. Already told you I can't do that. Why not? The frustration in her voice surprised her. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Just forget this. Forget I was here. Ronan was quiet for a long moment. Those amber eyes studied her with an intensity that made her want to look away. But she forced herself to hold his gaze. Can't forget, he finally said. His voice had dropped, gone rough around the edges. Already tried. Been trying since I caught your scent 3 miles back. Doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like what? He opened his mouth, closed it, shook his head like he was arguing with himself. Doesn't matter. What matters is getting you somewhere safe before you collapse. We can argue about the rest after you've eaten something that isn't tree bark. Elara wanted to argue, wanted to tell him to leave, that she'd take her chances with the cold and the coming storm, but her body was betraying her. The shaking had spread from her hands to her whole frame, and her vision was starting to blur at the edges. He was right about the hypothermia, about the starvation, about all of it. If this is a trap, she whispered. It's not. How do I know that? Ronan's expression shifted into something raw. Because if I wanted to trap you, you'd already be trapped. I'm offering you a choice. That's more than whoever you're running from gave you, isn't it? Yes. The Covenant had never offered choices. Just demands masked as suggestions, control masked as care. She'd grown up in their facility thinking it was normal, thinking everyone lived like that, monitored, tested, pushed to the edges of their capabilities and beyond. Until the day she'd overheard 2 scientists talking about disposal protocols and acceptable losses, and realized she was never meant to leave that place alive. One night, Elara said, food and shelter for one night, then I'm gone. We'll see. I mean it. So do I. Ronan gestured toward the door. Come on, we've got about an hour of daylight left, and the trail down isn't friendly in the dark. She followed him out into the fading afternoon. The sky had turned the color of bruises, and the wind carried the sharp bite of incoming snow. Ronan moved through the forest like he was part of it, stepping over roots and rocks with the kind of unconscious grace that spoke of years of practice. Elara stumbled after him, trying to match his pace and failing. Her legs felt like water, her lungs burning with each breath. There's a truck about 2 miles down, Ronan said without looking back. Can you make it? Yes. Lie. She could barely make it 20 feet. He stopped, turned, studied her with those unsettling eyes. Don't bullshit me. If you need help, say so. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're about 10 minutes from passing out. He closed the distance between them in 2 strides. Pride's good, keeps you alive, but stupidity gets you killed. Which is it going to be? Elara swayed, caught herself against a tree. The bark felt rough under her palm. Real. She focused on that sensation, using it to anchor herself against the growing darkness at the edges of her vision. I don't want your help, she said, but the words came out slurred, wrong. Yeah, I'm getting that. Ronan moved closer. But you need it anyway, so you've got 2 options. Walk and probably fall on your face halfway down, or let me carry you and save us both the trouble. I'm not... The world tilted. Her knees buckled. Strong arms caught her before she hit the ground. Elara tried to push away, but her body wouldn't cooperate. Everything felt distant, muffled, like she was underwater. Easy. Ronan's voice came from somewhere above her. I've got you. Just stop fighting for 5 seconds. She wanted to argue, wanted to prove she didn't need saving, didn't need anyone, but exhaustion pulled at her like an undertow, and fighting it was like fighting the tide. The last thing she remembered was the smell of pine and something else, something wild and clean, like wind over open water, and the steady rhythm of Ronan's heartbeat against her ear. Then nothing. She woke up warm. That was the first shock. She couldn't remember the last time she'd been truly warm, not cold, not shivering, but actually comfortable. The second shock was the softness beneath her. Not the hard ground or splintered wood of the cabin, but something that gave under her weight. A bed. She was in a bed. Elara's eyes snapped open. Wood-beamed ceiling, soft lamplight, the smell of something cooking, meat and vegetables and fresh bread. She was in a bedroom that looked hand-built, all natural wood and simple furniture, with a window that showed darkness beyond and the faint sound of wind in the trees. She sat up too fast. The room spun, and she pressed her palms against her eyes until it steadied. You're awake, Ronan's voice came from the doorway. Good. I was starting to think you'd sleep through dinner. She looked up to find him leaning against the frame, arms crossed, watching her with that same assessing gaze. He'd lost the jacket, and his sleeves were rolled up, revealing forearms marked with old scars and what might have been the edge of a tattoo. Where am I? Her voice came out hoarse. My place. About 15 miles from where I found you. He straightened. You've been out for about 3 hours. How do you feel? Like I was hit by a truck. Better than feeling like you were hit by a train, I guess. He jerked his head toward the main room. Food's ready. You should eat. Elara swung her legs off the bed, noting distantly that someone had removed her boots and jacket, but left the rest of her clothes intact. Small mercy. You drugged me. You passed out from exhaustion. Not the same thing. Ronan's expression didn't change. Though if you want to keep being paranoid, I can't stop you. Just seems like wasted energy. She stood, testing her balance. Steady enough. Her hands were bandaged, clean white gauze wrapped around her palms. You treated my hands. They looked infected. Basic first aid. He shrugged. You want to check them yourself? Kit's in the bathroom. I won't stop you. Everything about this felt wrong. Not threatening exactly, but off balance. Like the rules she'd learned for survival didn't apply here. The Covenant had taught her to trust no one, to see kindness as manipulation, to always look for the angle. But Ronan wasn't acting like someone with an angle. He was acting like someone who'd found an injured animal and brought it home without thinking twice. Why are you helping me? Elara asked. Already told you, you needed help. That's not a reason. People don't just... She gestured vaguely. They don't do this. Not for strangers. Maybe you've been around the wrong people. Possible. Probable, even. The Covenant had been her whole world until 6 months ago. Every person she'd known had been part of that system, that machine designed to control her, to use her, to extract everything useful before discarding the rest. She'd thought escaping would be freedom. Instead, it had just been a different kind of prison, always moving, always hiding, never trusting anyone long enough to rest. Come eat, Ronan said. You can interrogate me over food, better than standing here looking like you're about to bolt out the window. I could. You could try. But you're on the second floor and it's about a 20-foot drop to gravel. Your call. He left before she could respond. Elara stood there for a moment, weighing options. The smart thing would be to leave. Find her boots, get out, disappear back into the mountains. Ronan had been kind, but kindness was temporary. Eventually he'd want something. They always did. But her stomach was a hollow pit, and the smell of food was overwhelming, and she was so tired of running. Just one night, she told herself. Food and rest. Then gone. The main room was larger than expected. Open-plan kitchen and living area, more of that hand-built furniture, a stone fireplace crackling with real flames. The walls were decorated sparsely, a few photographs, some hiking gear, a rack of tools. Nothing personal. Nothing that suggested who Ronan really was beyond Ranger who lives in the middle of nowhere. He was at the stove, dishing food onto 2 plates. Venison stew, he said without looking up. Nothing fancy, but it's hot and there's plenty. Elara approached cautiously, taking the plate he offered. The stew smelled incredible, rich and savory with chunks of meat and root vegetables. Her mouth watered. Sit. Ronan gestured to the table. Eat slow. Your stomach's not going to be happy if you rush it. She sat, picked up the spoon, looked at the food, then at him. He'd settled into the chair across from her with his own plate, eating with the unselfconscious efficiency of someone used to being alone. Not watching her, not waiting for thanks or acknowledgement, just eating. Elara took a bite. The taste exploded across her tongue, salt and herbs and perfectly tender meat. She had to stop herself from inhaling the entire bowl in 30 seconds. Instead, she forced herself to follow his advice, taking small bites, letting her stomach adjust. They ate in silence for several minutes. It should have been awkward, but somehow wasn't. Just 2 people sharing a meal, nothing more complicated than that. So, Ronan said eventually, lightning scars. That's not something you see every day. Elara's spoon paused halfway to her mouth. I don't want to talk about it. Fair enough, but if someone's going to come looking for you, I need to know what I'm dealing with. Why would you care? This isn't your problem. You made it my problem when you set up camp in my territory. He met her eyes. And whether you want to admit it or not, you came here for a reason. People don't accidentally end up this deep in the Cascades. They come here to hide. So? So I'm asking if whoever you're hiding from is going to show up on my doorstep with guns and demands. Elara set down her spoon. If they find me, you should run. Don't try to help. Don't get involved. Just run. That bad? Worse. Ronan was quiet for a moment, studying her. Then he pushed back from the table, walked to the fireplace, and stared into the flames. The light played across his features, highlighting the sharp angles of his face, the tension in his shoulders. I'm going to tell you something, he said quietly. And you're probably not going to believe me, but I need you to listen anyway. Warning bells rang in Elara's head. What? There are things in these mountains that most people don't know about. Things that don't fit into neat categories. He turned to face her. I'm one of them. Her pulse kicked up. What does that mean? It means I'm not just a ranger. And these woods, this whole area, it belongs to something older than the National Park Service. He took a breath. I'm the alpha of a wolf pack. And I don't mean that metaphorically. Elara stared at him, waiting for the punchline. When it didn't come, she laughed. A sharp, brittle sound. You expect me to believe you're a werewolf? I don't care if you believe me. I'm telling you because you need to understand what you walked into. Ronan's eyes had gone brighter, almost luminous. There are 13 of us. We live here year-round, away from humans, managing our territory. And when someone shows up smelling like ozone and running from something that scares them enough to risk dying in the wilderness, That gets my attention. This is insane, says the girl with lightning scars on her hands. He moved closer, and there was something in the way he moved that was decidedly not human, too fluid, too predatory. You want to keep pretending you're normal? Fine, but we both know you're not. And whatever you can do, whatever they wanted from you, it marks you. I can smell it on your skin. Elara stood up so fast her chair toppled backward. Stay away from me. I'm not going to hurt you. Everyone says that right before they... Her hands started to tingle, the familiar crackle of static electricity building under her skin, responding to her fear, to her rage. I don't want this. I don't want any of this. I know. Ronan's voice had gone soft. Careful. I know you're scared. I know you've been hurt. But you're not going to survive out there alone, Elara. Whatever you're running from, whatever this covenant is, you can't fight them by yourself. I'm not fighting them. I'm running. For how long? Until they catch you? Until you freeze to death in some godforsaken cave? He shook his head. There's a better way. There's no better way. There's just... The words caught in her throat. There's just staying alive one more day. That's all I've got. The lights flickered, bulbs glowing brighter for a second before dimming back to normal. Ronan's eyes tracked to the ceiling, then back to her. You're doing that, he said. Not a question. I can't control it. When I'm upset, when I'm scared, it just... She held up her hands, watching the faint blue glow starting to arc between her fingers. This is why they want me, why they made me. I'm a weapon they can't afford to lose. Made you? The Covenant isn't just an organization. It's a research facility, a prison. They've been collecting people like me for decades, people with abilities that shouldn't exist, studying us, using us. The words tumbled out, propelled by months of isolation and fear. I was born there, raised there. I didn't even know what the real world looked like until I escaped. Ronan's expression had gone hard. How old are you? 24, I think. They didn't exactly celebrate birthdays. And they kept you locked up for 24 years. Not locked up. That makes it sound like prison. It was worse than that. They made us think we were there to learn control, to become better. That the outside world would fear us, hurt us, that they were protecting us. She laughed bitterly. I believed them, until I heard what they really had planned. Which was? Disposal. We were experiments, and experiments have limited lifespans. Once they'd extracted everything useful, our genetics, our capabilities, the limits of our powers, we were scheduled for termination. The glow around her hands intensified. I was on the list, 2 weeks away from being retired. How did you get out? I killed 6 people. She said it flatly, without emotion. 6 scientists who tried to sedate me for the procedure. I didn't mean to. I lost control, and the lightning, it doesn't care about intentions. It just burns. The silence that followed felt crushing. Elara waited for judgment, for fear, for Ronan to realize what she really was and throw her out into the cold. Instead, he just nodded slowly. They tried to kill you first. That doesn't make it okay. Didn't say it did. But self-defense is self-defense, even when it goes wrong. He moved to the window, looking out at the darkness. This covenant, how many facilities do they have? I don't know. At least 6 that I heard about, maybe more. They're everywhere, hidden in plain sight as research centers, private labs, pharmaceutical companies. She wrapped her arms around herself. And they have resources I can't even imagine. Money, connections, technology. They tracked me to Seattle in less than a month. But not here. Not yet. But they will. Elara met his eyes. That's why I can't stay. That's why you need to let me go, before they come looking and find you instead. Ronan turned from the window. In the firelight, his eyes looked more wolf than human, golden and ancient and utterly unafraid. Let me tell you how this is going to work, he said quietly. You're going to stay here tonight. Tomorrow, you're going to meet my pack. We're going to figure out exactly what your capabilities are and how to help you control them. And then we're going to make a plan. A plan for what? For stopping these people from ever taking you again. You can't... Elara shook her head. You don't understand what you're saying. They're too powerful, too connected. Maybe, But I've been protecting this territory for 15 years and nothing gets past me without permission. The certainty in his voice was absolute. You want to keep running? I can't stop you, but if you stay, you'll have help, real help. Not just survival, but a chance to actually fight back. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. The question hung between them. Ronan's jaw tightened, and for a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he moved closer, not threatening, but deliberate, until he was close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his amber eyes. Because you're my mate, he said quietly. And that means protecting you is not optional. Elara's breath caught. You're what? Mate. In my world, it means... He stopped, struggling for words. It means you're mine to protect, to defend. Whether you want it or not, whether you accept it or not, the bond is there, and it doesn't care about logic or timing or how inconvenient it is. That's insane. Yeah. Welcome to my life. He stepped back, giving her space. I'm not asking you to understand it. I'm not asking for anything except that you let me help. The rest, we can figure out later. Elara's mind was reeling. Werewolves, mates, ancient bonds. It sounded like something from a fantasy novel, not reality. But then again, she could call lightning with her thoughts, and had spent her entire life in a facility that treated humans as test subjects. Maybe reality was more flexible than she'd thought. I need to think, she said. Take all the time you need. Guest room's yours for as long as you want it. Ronan moved toward the door. I'll be outside if you need anything. And Elara? She looked up. Whatever you decide, you're safe here tonight. That's a promise. Then he was gone, leaving her alone with the crackling fire and 1,000 questions she didn't have answers for. Elara sank back into her chair, staring at her bandaged hands. Beneath the gauze, she could feel the familiar tingle of electricity, always present, always waiting. The power that made her valuable to the Covenant, the power that made her dangerous. For the first time since she'd escaped, someone was offering her something besides fear or exploitation. She didn't know if she could trust it. But sitting there in the warmth, with food in her stomach and a locked door between her and the cold, Elara thought maybe, just maybe, she could risk trying. Outside, the first snow began to fall, and in the distance something howled at the rising moon. Morning came with voices. Elara woke to the sound of people outside. Not whispering, not trying to be quiet, just talking, laughing, the easy cadence of conversation between people who knew each other well. She lay still for a moment, disoriented, before the events of the previous night came flooding back. Ronan, the cabin, werewolves, mate. She pushed off the blankets and moved to the window. Dawn light filtered through the pines, painting everything in shades of gold and shadow. Below, in the clearing in front of the house, she counted 7 people. No, not people. Pack members. They looked normal enough. Jeans and flannel, work boots, coffee mugs steaming in the cold air. But there was something in the way they moved, the way they oriented themselves around each other, that spoke of a hierarchy she couldn't quite decode. Ronan stood slightly apart from the group, arms crossed, listening to a woman with dark braids who was gesturing emphatically. He nodded at something she said, then looked up, directly at Elara's window. Even from this distance, those amber eyes found her. She jerked back from the glass, heart hammering. How had he known? She'd barely moved the curtain. A knock at her door made her jump. Elara? Ronan's voice muffled through the wood. You awake? She glanced down at herself, still wearing yesterday's clothes, wrinkled and stained with dirt. Not exactly presentable. Give me a minute. Take your time. Bathroom's stocked. Clean clothes on the dresser. His footsteps retreated. Elara turned to find a stack of clothing she'd somehow missed last night. Simple stuff, practical. Jeans that looked about her size, a thermal shirt, thick socks. She touched the fabric, half expecting some kind of trap. Just clothes, nothing more. The bathroom was small but functional. She avoided looking at herself in the mirror while she washed, not ready to see what 6 months of running had done to her face. The shower was a luxury she couldn't resist. Hot water sluicing away layers of grime and fear, at least temporarily. When she finally emerged, dressed in borrowed clothes that fit surprisingly well, she could hear more voices downstairs. The whole pack, from the sound of it, waiting for her. Her hand froze on the doorknob. She could leave. Climb out the window, drop to the gravel like Ronan had said, run before anyone could stop her, disappear back into the wilderness and take her chances. But her stomach was full for the first time in weeks. She'd slept in a real bed, and some traitorous part of her wanted to see what would happen if she stayed, just for a little while longer. The stairs creaked under her feet. Conversation stopped as she descended, every face turning toward her with expressions ranging from curiosity to suspicion. She froze halfway down, suddenly aware of how badly this could go. "Everyone, this is Elara." Ronan spoke from near the fireplace, his tone neutral. "Elara, this is the pack." "The intruder, you mean?" The woman with braids, the one who'd been talking to Ronan outside, stepped forward. She was maybe 40, with sharp features and sharper eyes. "The one who's been leaving storm signatures all over our territory for the past 3 days." Elara's throat went dry. Storm signatures? Disturbances in the natural weather patterns, ozone spikes, static electricity off the charts. The woman circled her slowly, predatory. "We thought it was equipment malfunction at first. Then Ronan told us what you can do." "Kira," warning in Ronan's voice. "What? We're supposed to pretend she's not dangerous?" Kira stopped in front of Elara, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "She's a lightning rod walking around in skin, and you brought her here, to our home. She needed help. She needs to leave." This from a younger man, early 20s, with the kind of pretty boy features that probably got him far in the human world. "No offense, but we don't do charity cases, especially not ones that could fry us by accident." "Marcus," Ronan's tone had gone hard. "That's enough." "Is it? Because from where I'm standing, you found some random girl in the woods and decided to adopt her without asking any of us." Marcus gestured around the room. "We're a pack. We make decisions together. Or did you forget that part of being alpha?" The tension in the room ratcheted up several notches. Elara could feel it like pressure against her skin, making her hands tingle with the urge to defend herself. She clenched her fists, forcing the electricity down. "I didn't ask to be here," she said quietly. Everyone's attention snapped back to her. "And I'll leave if that's what you want. I don't need your charity." "See? Problem solved." Marcus looked triumphant. "Except she won't make it 3 days out there." An older man spoke from the corner, graying beard, weathered face, the kind of stillness that suggested he didn't speak unless he had something worth saying. "You saw her when Ronan brought her in, Marcus. She was half dead." "Not our problem, Garrett." "Everything in our territory is our problem." Garrett moved closer, studying Elara with interest rather than hostility. "And if what Ronan says is true, if there's an organization hunting people with abilities, we need to know more." "Why?" Kira demanded. "So we can paint a target on our backs? We've stayed hidden this long by minding our own business." "We've stayed hidden because we're strong enough to defend our territory," Ronan cut in, "and because we protect those who can't protect themselves. That's what we do." "That's what you decided we do." Marcus's voice had risen. "Without consulting us. Again, I'm Alpha. I don't need to consult you on matters of sanctuary." "Sanctuary?" Kira laughed, sharp and bitter. "You call bringing a wanted fugitive into our home sanctuary? What happens when her hunters show up? When they bring guns and helicopters and whatever else they use to track people like her?" "Then we deal with it." Ronan's expression was granite. "Like we've dealt with every other threat. This is different, and you know it." Kira moved to stand beside Marcus, a unified front. "We're talking about human organizations with resources and technology, not rogue wolves or territorial disputes. If they find her here, they'll find us. And everything we've built, everything we've protected, it all goes up in smoke." Elara couldn't listen anymore. "Stop." Her voice cut through the argument. "Just stop. I'm not worth this." Silence fell. Ronan turned to her, something complicated crossing his face. "Elara, no, they're right. I'm dangerous. The Covenant will come eventually. They always do. And when they get here, people will die. That's what happens around me." She looked at each pack member in turn. "I've been running for 6 months. I've seen what they do to anyone who helps me. You want me gone? Fine. I'll be gone by noon." She turned toward the stairs, done with this whole situation. Done with hoping things could be different. "Wait." The voice was female, younger. Elara looked back to find a girl, maybe 19, stepping forward. She had the kind of face that belonged in a painting, delicate and ethereal, with silver blonde hair that caught the light. You said the Covenant has been hunting you for 6 months. How are you still alive? The question caught Elara off guard. What? If they're as powerful as you say, why haven't they caught you? The girl's eyes were intelligent, calculating. You're one person. They're an organization with unlimited resources. The math doesn't work unless you're doing something right. Elara opened her mouth, closed it. She'd never thought about it like that, had been too busy surviving to analyze how she was surviving. I move constantly, she finally said. Never stay in one place more than a few days. Avoid cameras, don't use credit cards, steal what I need, and she hesitated. I can feel them sometimes. When they get close, the air changes, gets heavier, your power warning you. The girl nodded thoughtfully. What else? I short out their equipment. Accidentally, mostly. Drones, tracking devices, anything electronic. Get close enough and it just fails. How close? Maybe 50 feet? Less if I'm scared. Interest sparked in several faces around the room. Even Kira looked less hostile, more evaluating. That's a significant defensive capability, Garrett said. Natural EMP field. Could be useful. Useful how? Marcus demanded. We don't use much tech anyway. No, but others do. Hunters, poachers, that logging company that keeps trying to expand into the Northern Territory. Garrett stroked his beard. Having someone who can disable their equipment from a distance, that changes the tactical landscape. You're talking about using her as a weapon, Kira said flatly. I'm talking about recognizing assets when they appear. Garrett met Ronan's eyes. But that's Alpha's decision, not mine. All attention shifted to Ronan. He stood perfectly still, expression unreadable, and Elara could feel the weight of whatever choice he was about to make. She stays, he said finally. For now, probationary. Probationary how? Marcus pushed. She learns control, proves she's not a liability. If the Covenant gets close, we deal with it together. If she can't manage her abilities or puts the pack at risk, we revisit. Ronan looked at Elara. Fair? It wasn't fair. Nothing about this was fair, but it was more than anyone else had offered her. Fine, she said. But I have conditions. Kira's eyebrows shot up. You're in no position to make demands. Maybe not. But if I'm staying, I need to know what I'm getting into. Elara forced herself to stand straighter, to meet Ronan's eyes without flinching. First, I want to know what this mate thing actually means. Second, if the Covenant shows up, you let me go. Don't fight them on my behalf. Third, I pull my weight. I'm not a charity case. Give me work, I'll do it. Silence stretched. Then Ronan nodded slowly. Agreed, with one modification. Which is? If the Covenant shows up, we decide together how to handle it. Not you running off to sacrifice yourself like some tragic hero. His expression was hard. You're part of the pack now, probationary or not. We don't abandon our own. I'm not your own. Not yet. But you could be. The certainty in his voice made something twist in her chest. Elara looked away first, unable to hold that golden gaze. Meeting adjourned, Ronan announced. Garrett, you're with me. We need to run the northern boundary. Kira, take Marcus and check the eastern cameras. Something's been triggering them at night. Luna? He looked at the silver-haired girl. Show Elara around, answer her questions. On it, Alpha. Luna grinned, bright and genuine. Come on, Lightning Girl. Let's get you oriented. The pack dispersed with the efficiency of people used to following orders. Kira shot Elara one last suspicious look before heading out, Marcus trailing behind, still radiating hostility. Garrett clapped Ronan on the shoulder, saying something too quiet for Elara to hear. Then it was just her and Luna. Don't mind them, Luna said cheerfully. They're always grumpy about new people. Give it a week and Kira will be trying to adopt you. Adopt me? She's protective. Lost her whole family to hunters about 10 years back. Now anyone vulnerable triggers her mama bear instincts, even if she'd rather die than admit it. Luna headed toward the door. Come on, I'll show you the compound. Elara followed her outside into cold morning air. The clearing was larger than she'd realized, maybe 2 acres ringed by massive pines. She could see several buildings scattered among the trees. Cabins, from the look of them, each one carefully positioned for privacy. We've got 12 structures total, Luna explained as they walked. Ronan's is the main house, biggest, most central. Everyone else has their own space, keeps us from killing each other during territorial phases. Territorial phases? Wolf stuff. Happens a few times a year. We get cranky, possessive, generally unbearable to be around. Luna waved dismissively. You'll know it when you see it. Everyone starts growling at everyone else over stupid things like who ate the last of the coffee. Despite everything, Elara felt her lips twitch. Sounds fun. It's a nightmare, but it passes. Luna pointed to a building that looked more utilitarian than the others. That's the supply house. Food, medical gear, emergency equipment, everything's communal. You need something, you take it. Just try to replace what you use when you can. They walked in silence for a moment. Elara studied the compound, noting exits, potential defensible positions, old habits. You're tactical, Luna observed. Looking for escape routes? Always. Smart. Paranoid, but smart. Luna stopped at the edge of the clearing where the trees grew thick. This is the perimeter. We don't have fences. Don't need them. The pack can smell intruders from about a mile out. And the forest itself, well, let's just say it doesn't like strangers. The forest doesn't like strangers. Elara repeated it carefully. You mean there's something out there? Not something, just... Luna struggled for words. The land recognizes us. We've been here long enough that we're part of it. But outsiders? It turns them around, sends them in circles, makes navigation impossible. Natural defense. That's not natural. Neither are we. Luna grinned. Welcome to the weird side of reality, where the rules are made up and physics is optional. They continued walking, Luna keeping up a steady stream of information. Where the good hunting was. Which berries were safe to eat. The location of the nearest town, 30 miles south, rarely visited. How the pack sustained itself through a combination of hunting, a small garden in summer, and careful trips to civilization for supplies they couldn't produce. It was more organized than Elara had expected. Not primitive survivalism, but an actual functioning community with structure and roles and plans. You seem surprised, Luna said. I thought it would be more savage. Because we're werewolves? Luna laughed. Please, we have Wi-Fi. Ronan does the pack's taxes. Garrett reads romance novels and cries at the endings. We're not some feral commune howling at the moon. But you do howl at the moon. Well, yeah, but that's for fun. Elara found herself smiling, actually smiling for the first time in months. Luna had that effect, apparently. Easy humor, genuine warmth. It made the walls Elara had built feel less necessary. Dangerous, that. They circled back toward the main house. Ronan and Garrett were heading out, both carrying rifles that looked well-maintained and frequently used. Boundary check, Luna explained. They do it every few days, make sure no one's encroaching on our territory. Does that happen often? More than you'd think. Hikers who wander too far, hunters who ignore the posted signs, occasionally something worse. Luna's expression darkened. There are other things in these mountains besides us. Not all of them friendly. Before Elara could ask what that meant, a commotion erupted from one of the cabins. Shouting, followed by a crash. Luna sighed. And that would be Thomas and Jace. Again. What's their problem? Each other, mostly. Luna started toward the noise. Come on, welcome to Pack Dynamics in action. They found two men grappling in front of a cabin, one dark-haired and stocky, the other lean with red hair. Not quite fighting, but close. Shoving and snarling, faces twisted with barely controlled rage. He stole my fucking jacket, the redhead, Jace, presumably, shouted. It was in the supply house, asshole. That makes it communal. Thomas shoved back. It had my name on it. Then why was it in communal storage? Kira appeared from nowhere, moving with shocking speed. She grabbed both men by their collars and separated them bodily, holding them at arm's length despite their struggling. Enough. Her voice cracked like a whip. You want to fight over a jacket? Fine. But you do it in human form and you clean up the mess after. He started it, Jace muttered. Don't care who started it. I'm finishing it. Kira released them with enough force that they both stumbled. Thomas, you know better than to take marked items. Jace, You know better than to leave your stuff in communal areas. Both of you apologize. They glared at each other. The tension was thick enough to cut. Now, Kira added. Sorry, they mumbled in unison, not sounding sorry at all. Better. Thomas, you're on firewood duty for the next week. Jace, you're helping him. Kira turned to find Luna and Elara watching. And you two can stop spectating. This isn't entertainment. Kind of is, Luna said cheerfully. Better than TV. Kira's expression suggested she disagreed, but she didn't argue. Instead, she focused on Elara. You settling in? Trying to. Good. Because you're going to earn your keep starting today. Kira gestured toward the supply house. Inventory needs doing. Luna will show you how we organize things. I want a full count by tonight. It wasn't a request. Elara nodded. Understood. And Elara? Kira's voice stopped her. I meant what I said earlier. You put this pack at risk. I will personally drag you out of here and dump you in the nearest town with a note pinned to your shirt. Clear? Crystal. Good. Then we won't have problems. Kira walked away, Thomas and Jace trailing behind her like chastised children. Luna let out a low whistle. She likes you, she said. That was her liking me? She didn't threaten to break any bones. That's basically a hug from Kira. Luna headed toward the supply house. Come on, inventory's boring but necessary, and it'll give you something to do besides overthink. The supply house was organized with military precision. Shelves labeled and sorted, everything from medical supplies to ammunition stored in clearly marked containers. Luna walked her through the system, how to count, how to note discrepancies, how to check expiration dates on perishables. We run tight margins, Luna explained. Can't exactly order from Amazon out here, so we track everything, make sure nothing goes to waste. They worked in comfortable silence for a while. Elara found the repetitive task soothing. Count, mark, move to the next item. Simple. Concrete. No lightning, no running, no fear. Just numbers and organization. Can I ask you something? Luna said eventually. Sure. What's it like, controlling storms? Elara's hands stilled on a box of batteries. I don't control them. Not really. It's more like they respond to me, to my emotions. When I'm angry, the sky gets angry. When I'm scared, it reflects that. So right now, how does it feel? She considered the question. Outside, the sky was clear and cold, winter sun slanting through the trees. Inside her, the familiar electric current hummed just beneath her skin. But it wasn't aggressive, just present. Calm, she said. Mostly, there's always static, but it's manageable. What happens when it's not manageable? People get hurt. Luna was quiet for a moment. The 6 scientists. In the facility. Ronan told you about that? He tells me everything. I'm pack chronicler. Keep the records. Document the important stuff. Luna set down the clipboard she'd been using. For what it's worth, I don't think you're a monster. I think you're someone who's been pushed way past breaking and somehow survived anyway. The kindness in her voice made Elara's throat tight. I killed them. They were going to kill you first. That's not the same thing as murder. Isn't it? No. And the sooner you figure that out, the sooner you stop carrying it like a weight. Luna met her eyes. You want my advice? Stop punishing yourself for surviving. It's not productive, and it's not fair. Fair to who? To you, genius. Luna smiled gently. I know we just met, but I'm pretty good at reading people, and you're holding yourself together with spite and willpower. But eventually, that breaks. Better to start healing now before it gets worse. Elara looked away, blinking hard. I don't know how. Lucky for you, you're in a house full of people who've all been through their own versions of hell. We're pretty good at the healing thing, when we're not fighting over jackets. Luna returned to her inventory. Give it time. You might be surprised. They finished the count just as afternoon shadows started lengthening. Luna declared the results acceptable and suggested they head back to the main house for dinner prep. Everyone takes turns cooking, she explained. Tonight's Garrett's night, which means stew. He makes everything into stew. I don't know how to cook. Then you'll learn. We all have skills to share. That's how this works. Back at the main house, they found Garrett already at work in the kitchen. He nodded at their entrance but didn't speak, focused on chopping vegetables with the kind of precision that spoke of practice. Luna pulled Elara into the rhythm of preparation, washing, peeling, sorting. The other pack members drifted in gradually. Marcus, still sullen but less hostile. Thomas and Jace, apparently over their jacket dispute. A woman Elara hadn't met yet, older, with kind eyes and streaks of gray in her brown hair. Sarah, she introduced herself. Medic. If you get hurt, you come to me. Noted. And if you need to talk, same deal. I'm good at listening. Sarah squeezed her shoulder gently before moving to help Garrett. Ronan arrived last, tracking in cold air and the smell of pine. His eyes found Elara immediately, that strange intensity back. She looked away first, focused on the potatoes she was peeling. Dinner was chaotic. 13 people around a table meant for 10, elbows bumping, conversations overlapping. But there was a rhythm to it, a pattern, insults traded with affection, stories shared, laughter that felt genuine. Elara sat at the end of the table, mostly quiet, watching this family that wasn't really a family operate, and something inside her, something she'd thought the Covenant had killed, stirred. Longing. For this. For belonging. For people who saw her and didn't immediately calculate her value as a weapon or a threat. You okay? Ronan's voice, low enough that only she could hear. She nodded, not trusting her voice. His hand found hers under the table. Brief contact, then gone. But the warmth lingered. After dinner, people scattered to evening routines. Elara helped Luna with dishes, learning the kitchen system. Where things went, how they conserved water, why they composted. You're doing good, Luna said as they finished. For your first day. I peeled potatoes and counted supplies, not exactly heroic. Heroic is overrated. Reliable is better. Luna dried her hands. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start the real work. What's the real work? Luna's grin was sharp. Teaching you to control that lightning before it kills someone accidentally should be fun. She left before Elara could respond. The house had gone quiet, most of the pack retreating to their cabins. Elara stood alone in the kitchen, exhaustion pulling at her. She was heading toward the stairs when she heard voices outside. Low, tense, arguing, Ronan and Kira. Can't ignore the risks, Kira was saying. I'm not ignoring anything. But then what do you call bringing her here without consulting the pack council? That's not leadership, Ronan. That's desperation. Maybe it is. Ronan's voice had gone rough. But you didn't see her out there. Didn't see what they did to her. I couldn't just what? Walk away? She's not your responsibility. Yes, she is. Silence. Then Kira, softer. The mate bond. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. That doesn't mean it's smart. Mate bonds are powerful, but they can also cloud judgment. Make you do reckless things. Like giving someone sanctuary? Like starting a war to protect them. Kira's frustration was palpable. The Covenant isn't going to stop. You know that. They'll track her here eventually, and when they do, we'll be ready. Will we? How do you prepare for an enemy you know nothing about? With resources we can't match? Kira's voice dropped. I'm not saying abandon her. I'm saying think this through. Really think it through. Because if you're wrong, it's not just you who pays the price. It's all of us. Elara's hands were shaking. She pressed them against the cold window glass, watching her breath fog the surface. Kira was right. Staying here was selfish, dangerous. Every day she remained increased the risk to these people who'd shown her more kindness in 24 hours than she'd experienced in her entire life. She should leave, pack her things, slip out before dawn, disappear back into the wilderness. But the thought of running again, of being alone again, felt like drowning. Ronan's response was too quiet to hear. Whatever he said made Kira sigh, then walk away toward her cabin. He stood alone in the clearing for a long moment, head tilted back to look at the stars. Then he turned toward the house, toward the window where Elara stood. Their eyes met through the glass. She should move. Step back, pretend she hadn't been eavesdropping. Instead, she stood frozen, caught in that amber gaze. Ronan's expression was complicated. Frustration and determination and something else she couldn't name. He held up one hand, pressed it against the glass from his side. An offering. A promise. Elara raised her hand to match his, separated by a pane of glass and a chasm of doubt. The air between their palms crackled. Blue lightning arced across the window, spreading in fractal patterns like frost. Not destructive, just present. Ronan didn't pull away. Just watched the electricity dance, his expression intense and unafraid. The moment stretched. Then footsteps on the path, Luna returning from her cabin, broke the spell. Ronan dropped his hand, nodded once at Elara, and headed inside through a different door. She stood there long after he'd gone, staring at the fading glow on the glass. Tomorrow she'd start training. Tomorrow she'd prove she could control this power, could be an asset instead of a liability. Tomorrow she'd show the pack, show Kira, that trusting her wasn't a mistake. But tonight, alone in the darkness with electricity humming under her skin, Elara let herself feel the full weight of what she was risking. Not just her own safety, but the safety of people who were starting to matter. And that, more than anything the Covenant had ever done, terrified her completely. Outside, the wind picked up. In the distance, thunder rumbled despite the clear sky. The storm was coming. The question was whether she'd be ready when it arrived. The question was whether she'd be ready when it arrived. She wasn't. Training started before dawn. Luna dragged her out of bed while the sky was still dark, thrust a cup of bitter coffee into her hands, and marched her to a clearing half a mile from the compound. "We do this away from the others," Luna explained, breath fogging in the freezing air. "Just in case." "In case of what?" "In case you accidentally electrocute someone." Luna said it cheerfully, like discussing the weather. "Happened to a fire starter we sheltered once. Burned down half the supply house before we got him under control." Ronan was pissed for weeks. Elara's stomach dropped. "Maybe this is a bad idea." "Probably, but we're doing it anyway." Luna stopped in the center of the clearing, turning to face her. "Here's how this works. I push you. You control your response. We figure out your limits." "Push me how?" Luna's smile went sharp. Then she shifted. The transformation was brutal and fast. Bones cracking, body reshaping, fur erupting across skin. In less than 5 seconds, Luna the woman was gone. In her place stood a wolf the size of a small horse. Silver white coat, ice blue eyes, teeth that could tear through steel. Elara stumbled backward, electricity crackling across her arms instinctively. The wolf, Luna, circled her slowly. Predatory, testing. "Don't," Elara warned. "I can't control it when I'm scared." Luna lunged, not attacking. Elara realized that later. Just feinting, testing her reactions. But in the moment, all she registered was teeth and speed and danger. Her power exploded outward in a defensive wave. Lightning arced from her hands, scorching the ground where Luna had been a heartbeat before. The wolf dodged with impossible agility, circling around to approach from a different angle. "Stop!" Elara shouted. "I'll hurt you!" Luna kept coming, faster now, moving in patterns designed to overwhelm. Elara's power responded without thought, bolt after bolt of electricity lashing out, turning the clearing into a storm. None of them connected. Luna was too fast, too experienced, but the destruction was undeniable. Scorched earth, smoking craters, the smell of ozone thick enough to choke on. Elara dropped to her knees, gasping. I can't do this." Luna shifted back to human form, not even breathing hard. "Yes, you can. You just did. I almost killed you." "But you didn't. And do you know why?" Luna crouched beside her. "Because part of you, the part that isn't panicking, knew I wasn't really a threat. Your power responded to fear, but it also responded to intent. None of those strikes were actually aimed at me." Elara looked at the destruction around them. Luna was right. Every blast had missed by inches, scorching the ground in a pattern that suggested her subconscious had been steering them away. "That's the foundation," Luna said. "Your power isn't random. It's protective. We just need to teach you how to direct it consciously instead of relying on instinct." They trained for 3 hours. Luna would attack, Elara would defend, and slowly, painfully, she began to feel the difference between letting the lightning control her and controlling the lightning. It wasn't mastery, barely competence, but it was progress. By the time they returned to the compound, Elara was shaking with exhaustion, and her hands were blistered despite the cold. Sarah took one look at her and prescribed rest, food, and elevation. "You're pushing too hard too fast," Sarah said, wrapping Elara's hands with practiced efficiency. "Power like yours needs time to develop properly. Rush it, and you'll burn yourself out." "Don't have time." Elara winced as Sarah applied something that stung. "The Covenant could show up any day. Then we deal with it when they do. But killing yourself through overtraining helps no one." Sarah finished the bandaging and met Elara's eyes. "You're not alone in this anymore. Remember that." The words should have been comforting. Instead, they made Elara's chest tight with something uncomfortably close to guilt. She spent the afternoon helping Garrett repair one of the cabins, mindless physical labor that didn't require electricity or thought. He worked mostly in silence, occasionally offering instructions, never asking questions about the scorched earth he'd undoubtedly noticed near the training clearing. "You're good with your hands," he observed around 3 o'clock. "Done construction before?" "No, but I learned fast." Elara hammered in another nail, satisfaction blooming as it sank flush with the wood. "The Covenant kept us busy, said idle hands were dangerous." "They weren't wrong." Garrett passed her another board, though I suspect their definition of dangerous and mine differ significantly. "They thought we'd use our abilities against them if we had too much time to think." "Would you have?" The question hung between them. Elara considered lying, then decided against it. "Yes. If I'd known what they really planned, if I'd understood earlier." "But you didn't." "No, I was a good little experiment right up until I overheard my expiration date." She drove in another nail with more force than necessary. "Guess that makes me a coward." "Makes you human. Most people don't recognize they're in a cage until someone points at the bars." Garrett was quiet for a moment. "The ones who escape anyway? Those are the brave ones." Elara's throat went tight. She focused on the work, letting the rhythm of hammer and nail ground her. They finished just as the sun started setting. Garrett stepped back to survey their work, nodded with satisfaction. "Good. This'll hold another winter at least." "What happens after that?" "We repair it again. That's how it works out here. Nothing lasts forever. You just maintain what you can and accept what you can't." He collected his tools. "Dinner's in an hour. You should clean up." Back at the main house, Elara found the bathroom occupied and the shower running. She settled for washing her face and hands in the kitchen sink, watching through the window as pack members returned from their various tasks. Marcus and Jace hauling firewood, Thomas checking the perimeter cameras, Kira emerging from the forest with what looked like a deer slung over her shoulders, moving with the easy strength of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. A functional community, everyone with their role, their purpose. Where did she fit in this? If she even fit at all? "You're overthinking again." Ronan's voice came from behind her. She hadn't heard him enter, which should have been impossible, but apparently wasn't with werewolves. "It's what I do." She dried her hands on a towel. "Overthink and break things. My two main skills." "Luna says you made progress today." "Luna's generous. I mostly just destroyed a clearing and didn't die." "That's more progress than most people make in their first session." Ronan moved to stand beside her at the window, close enough that she could feel his body heat, smell that wild, clean scent that seemed to follow him. "You're being too hard on yourself." "Someone has to be." "Why?" The question caught her off guard. She turned to find him watching her with that intense amber gaze, expression serious. "Because if I'm not," she said slowly, "I might start believing I deserve this, deserve help, or safety, or—" She gestured vaguely. "Any of it. And that would be bad because the last time I let myself believe I was safe, 6 people died." Ronan was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached out, fingers brushing the bandages on her hand. "The Covenant killed those people. Not you. They put you in an impossible situation and you survived. That's not a crime." "Feels like one." "I know." His voice had gone soft. "But feelings aren't facts. And the fact is, you're here, you're trying, you're learning. That's enough." "Is it?" Elara met his eyes. "Because Kira doesn't think so. Half the pack thinks I'm a liability, and they're probably right. Kira thinks everyone's a liability until proven otherwise. It's how she stays alive. Ronan's hand was still on hers, warm and steady. Give her time. Give them all time. They'll come around. And if they don't, then they answer to me. I'm Alpha. My word is law. He said it simply, like stating an obvious truth. And I say you stay. The certainty in his voice did something complicated to her insides. Elara pulled her hand back, needing distance before she did something stupid like lean into that warmth. The mate bond, she said. You still haven't explained what it actually means. Ronan's expression shifted, guarded now. It's complicated. Try me, he sighed, running a hand through his hair. In my world, mates they're everything. The other half of your soul, the person you're meant to protect and cherish above all else. When you find them, you know. It's instinctive, undeniable. That sounds like a fairy tale. Feels like one too. Until it happens. His eyes found hers again. I smelled you 3 miles out and knew. Before I saw your face, before I learned your name. Just knew. Knew what? That you were mine. That I'd do anything to keep you safe. That losing you would be worse than dying. He said it flatly, without drama. I know how that sounds, but it's the truth. Elara's pulse kicked up. I'm not yours. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The bond doesn't work one way. You have to feel it too for it to be complete. Ronan's jaw tightened. But whether you accept it or not doesn't change what I feel. Doesn't change that I'll protect you regardless. That's insane. Probably. A ghost of a smile. But I've been called worse. Before Elara could respond, the door burst open. Kira, moving fast, expression grim. We've got company, she said. Northern perimeter. 3 vehicles, military grade. They're not trying to hide. The air went cold. Elara's hands started to tingle. The Covenant. Most likely. Kira's eyes were hard. They're about 20 minutes out. We need to decide how we're handling this. Ronan was already moving. Full alert. Get everyone armed and positioned. Standard defensive formation. Ronan. Elara stepped forward. Let me go. I'll meet them halfway. Lead them away from here. You don't have to fight my battles. Not happening. He didn't even look at her, focused on Kira. Sarah, get the medical station prepped. Garrett, you're on high ground with the rifle. Marcus and Jace, eastern flank. Thomas, western. Luna, I'm not leaving her. Luna had appeared already half-shifted. Wherever Elara goes, I go. Luna, this isn't... Elara started. Not debatable. Luna's voice had gone hard. You're pack now. We don't abandon pack. They'll kill you. They can try. Kira was checking her weapons. Knives, a handgun, something that looked disturbingly like a grenade. We've dealt with human threats before. This isn't our first dance. This is different, Elara's voice rose, electricity crackling up her arms. The Covenant doesn't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. They'll burn this whole compound to the ground to get to me. Then we make them regret it. Ronan finally looked at her and his eyes had gone full wolf, predatory, and absolutely fearless. You want to protect us? Fight beside us. Show us what you can do, because running won't save anyone. It'll just mean you die alone. The truth of it hit like a punch. He was right. She'd been running for 6 months and the Covenant had never stopped, never slowed. Running was just delaying the inevitable. Maybe it was time to stop running. Okay, she whispered. Okay. What do you need me to do? Ronan's expression shifted, surprise, then something fiercer. Can you disable their vehicles without getting close? If they're within 50 feet, maybe more if I push it. Good, that's our opening. We take out their mobility, force them into the forest where we have the advantage. He turned to Kira. Standard dispersal pattern. Make them chase shadows. The pack moved with terrifying efficiency. Positions assigned, weapons distributed. A plan coming together in minutes that should have taken hours. Elara watched them work and felt the weight of what she'd brought to their door, but also, for the first time, the possibility that she didn't have to carry it alone. Garrett appeared at her elbow, pressing something into her hands. A radio. Channel 3. If you get separated, call for help. We'll find you. I don't know how to use this. Push to talk, release to listen. Easy. He was already moving away. Don't die. Ronan would never forgive me. Then it was chaos, the sound of engines in the distance growing closer, pack members scattering to their positions, moving through the forest like ghosts. Ronan pulling her behind a fallen log, his body a wall between her and the approaching vehicles. "When I give the signal," he said quietly, "you hit them with everything you've got. Don't hold back. Don't worry about control. Just destroy." "I could hit you by accident." "You won't." "How do you know?" He met her eyes. "Because you didn't hit Luna during training. Because your power knows friend from foe. Because I trust you." The words settled into her chest, warm and impossible. The vehicles rolled into the clearing, 3 black SUVs with tinted windows and reinforced panels. Military spec, just like Kira had said. They stopped in formation, engines idling. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the doors opened. 12 people emerged. Not soldiers, too clean-cut, too corporate, but armed to the teeth anyway. Tactical gear under expensive coats, weapons that probably cost more than most cars. Leading them was a woman Elara recognized. Dr. Chen, head of the Covenant's Midwest facility. The one who'd supervised Elara's training, her testing, her scheduled disposal. "Elara Voss," Chen's voice carried across the clearing. "We know you're here. The energy signature is unmistakable. Come out and we can discuss this civilly." Elara's hands clenched. Ronan's hand on her shoulder kept her from standing. "We don't want to hurt anyone," Chen continued. "We just want you back where you belong, where you can be properly cared for." "Lying bitch," Elara muttered. "Agreed." Ronan's voice was barely a whisper. "Wait for it." Chen waited 30 seconds, then sighed. "Very well. We'll do this the difficult way. Team Alpha, begin sweep pattern. Team Beta, thermal imaging." She can't have gone far. The Covenant operatives fanned out, moving with professional precision. Scanning the forest, checking equipment, preparing to hunt. Ronan's hand squeezed Elara's shoulder once. The signal. She stood. Every weapon immediately trained on her, 12 red laser dots painting her chest. "There you are," Chen smiled, cold and clinical. "Step forward, please, hands where we can see them." "Or what?" Elara's voice was steadier than she felt. "You'll shoot?" "That didn't work in Seattle. Seattle was a mistake. We were unprepared for your development." Chen gestured, and 2 operatives moved forward with what looked like specialized equipment. "We won't make that error again. These weapons are specifically designed to incapacitate subjects with bioelectric abilities. You'll be unconscious before you can raise a hand." "You sure about that?" Chen's smile widened. "Quite sure. We've been studying you for 24 years, Elara. We know everything about your capabilities, your limits, your weaknesses. Then you know I've gotten stronger since I left. We suspected. These readings confirm it." Chen checked a tablet one of her people handed her. "Fascinating. Your output has increased by approximately 40%. The stress of survival must have triggered an accelerated development phase." She said it like discussing lab results, like Elara was still just data to be analyzed. "Last chance," Elara said. "Leave. Forget you found me. I don't want to hurt anyone." "You won't have the opportunity." Chen nodded to her team. "Subdue her. Lethal force authorized if she resists." The operatives raised their weapons. Elara raised her hands and pulled down the sky. Lightning didn't come from her this time. It came from above, from the clouds she'd been unconsciously building since the vehicles arrived. Massive bolts that turned night into day, striking with precision that should have been impossible. Not hitting people, hitting vehicles. All 3 SUVs exploded simultaneously, not from the lightning itself, but from the gas tanks igniting, from the electrical systems overloading, metal twisting, glass shattering, flames erupting into the darkness. The operatives scattered, training overriding shock. But they were in the forest now, on pack territory. And the pack was waiting. Wolves erupted from the shadows, not attacking, not yet, just surrounding, cutting off escape routes, herding the humans into tighter and tighter formation. Chen's face had gone pale. What are you?" "Not alone anymore." Elara walked forward, electricity dancing between her fingers. "You came to my home, threatened my people. That was a mistake." "Your people." Chen's shock was giving way to calculation. "You've bonded with local wildlife? Interesting. The psychological profile didn't predict this level of adaptation. Stop talking about me like I'm a specimen. But that's what you are. A specimen, a tool, property of the Covenant. Chen's voice hardened. You think these animals can protect you? We have resources you can't imagine. Reinforcements, air support, weapons that will level this entire mountain if necessary. Then do it. Kira stepped into the clearing, human form but radiating menace. Call your backup. See what happens when you try. Chen's eyes widened, taking in Kira, then the wolves, then Elara crackling with power. You've allied with shapeshifters. The data suggested it was theoretically possible, but an operative moved, fast, trained, bringing his weapon up to target Elara. Luna was faster. She hit him from the side in full wolf form, driving him to the ground. The weapon discharged harmlessly into the air. Then everything went to hell. The Covenant team opened fire. Not at the wolves, at Elara. Chen's specialized weapons tracking her movement, firing rounds that crackled with their own electricity. Countermeasures, designed specifically to disrupt her abilities. The first round hit her shoulder. Pain exploded through her nervous system, different from regular pain, deeper, wronger. Her power flickered, stuttering like a dying light bulb. Ronan appeared from nowhere, tackling her behind cover. Stay down! They have weapons, special weapons. She could barely get the words out through the pain. I see them. His eyes were pure wolf now, fury radiating off him in waves. Can you fight? I don't. Another round hit the log they were hiding behind. Wood splintered, showering them with debris. I don't know. Then let us handle it. He was shifting even as he spoke, bones cracking, form changing. Stay here. Stay alive. Then he was gone, a massive black wolf launching into combat with speed that defied physics. The clearing became a battlefield, wolves and humans clashing with brutal efficiency. The Covenant's weapons were effective. Elara watched in horror as Luna took a round and went down, shifting back to human form with a scream. But the pack was relentless. Marcus had one operative in a chokehold. Thomas was using trees as weapons, driving attackers into trunks with crushing force. Kira moved like death itself, knives flashing in the firelight. And Ronan was tearing through them like they were paper. But there were too many. And more vehicles were coming. Elara could hear engines in the distance, helicopters maybe, backup arriving faster than expected. Chen was screaming into a radio. Full containment! Authorization code Delta 7. Bring the dampeners online now! Something changed in the air. A pressure. A weight. Elara's power sputtered, draining away like water through a sieve. No! She tried to call the lightning, but nothing came. Just empty static where her abilities should be. Chen smiled in triumph. Bioelectric dampening field. Newest technology. You're powerless, Elara. It's over. An operative grabbed her from behind. Elara struggled, but without her power, she was just a half-starved girl against a trained soldier. Hands cuffed behind her back, something cold pressed against her neck. A shock collar, she realized with horror. Stop fighting, Chen's voice cut through the chaos. Or we activate the collar, and your heart stops. Choose. Elara went still. Around her, the pack was losing ground. Luna unconscious, Marcus bleeding from a shoulder wound. Even Ronan was surrounded now, 3 operatives with specialized weapons keeping him at bay. It was over. They'd lost. Chen approached, cautious but confident. Surrender peacefully, and your friends live. Resist, and we kill them all. Simple choice. Elara's mind raced. There had to be something, some way out. Then the world exploded. Not literally, but close enough. A wall of force hit the clearing from the east, sending operatives flying like toys. The dampening field shattered with an audible crack. And through the smoke and chaos walked someone Elara recognized. Grandmother. She looked exactly as Elara remembered. Small, elderly, completely unremarkable. Except for the fact that she was glowing with power that made Elara's abilities look like static electricity. That's enough. Grandmother's voice was soft but carried absolute authority. You've made a terrible mistake coming here. Chen's face went white. You're supposed to be dead. The reports said... The reports were wrong. Grandmother's eyes found Elara, softened briefly. Hello, little storm. I see you've been busy. Elara couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her grandmother, the one who'd supposedly died when Elara was 10, was here, alive, radiating power that made the air itself shimmer. "Take them down," Chen ordered her team desperately. They tried. Weapons fired, specialized rounds designed to disrupt bioelectric fields. Grandmother waved her hand and they stopped midair, just froze, hanging in space like someone had pressed pause on reality. I said enough. The temperature dropped 20 degrees. The fires from the destroyed vehicles went out simultaneously. "You hunt my granddaughter. You threaten her pack. You bring your abomination technology into sacred ground." "We have every right," Chen started. "You have nothing." Grandmother's voice cracked like thunder. "You stole a child, imprisoned her, planned to murder her when she ceased being useful. You have no rights here." The Covenant operatives were backing away now, professional training warring with survival instinct. Chen stood her ground, but barely. "The Covenant doesn't forget," she hissed. "We'll come back with everything we have. We'll burn this place to ash and everyone in it." "No." Grandmother stepped forward. "You won't." She placed her hand on Chen's forehead. Chen's eyes went white. Her body went rigid. When Grandmother pulled her hand away, Chen collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. "What did you do?" Elara whispered. "Remove the memory of this location, of you, of everything that happened here tonight." Grandmother looked tired suddenly, older than her years. "They'll wake up tomorrow believing the mission was a failure due to equipment malfunction. No casualties, no evidence, no reason to return. You can do that?" "I can do many things, little storm, but it costs." She swayed, and Ronan, shifted back to human, not caring about his nakedness, caught her. "Thank you, Alpha. You've protected my granddaughter well." "She's Pack," Ronan said it simply. "Yes, I can see that." Grandmother's eyes found Elara again. "We need to talk, all of us, about what you are, what's coming, and why the Covenant fears our bloodline enough to hunt us across generations." Elara's world tilted. "What do you mean, what I am?" "You're not just a girl who controls storms, child." Grandmother's smile was sad and ancient. "You're the last of the Stormborn. The bridge between worlds. And you're about to become the most dangerous person on this continent." "I don't understand." "You will." Grandmother looked at the unconscious Covenant operatives, at the destroyed vehicles, at the pack slowly regrouping. "But first, let's tend to the wounded and secure the perimeter. Explanations can wait until everyone's safe." She collapsed then, just folded like all her strength had been used up. Ronan caught her before she hit the ground, lifting her with surprising gentleness. "Sarah!" he called. "Medical emergency!" The pack moved into action, Luna being carried to the medical cabin, Marcus's shoulder being wrapped, the Covenant operatives being gathered and restrained, just in case Grandmother's memory wipe didn't hold. Elara stood in the center of the chaos, hands still cuffed, collar still around her neck, watching her entire understanding of reality crumble. Her grandmother was alive, had power that dwarfed anything Elara had ever imagined, and apparently everything Elara thought she knew about herself was wrong. Kira approached, bloody but functional. "You okay?" "No." Elara's voice came out hollow. "I'm really not." "Fair enough." Kira pulled out a key, unlocked the cuffs, carefully removed the collar. "But you fought. You stood your ground instead of running. That counts for something." "They almost killed you all because of me." "They tried. They failed. We're still here." Kira's hand landed heavy on Elara's shoulder. "Welcome to the pack, Lightning Girl. For real this time." Then she was gone, helping organize the cleanup, leaving Elara alone with the weight of what had just happened. The Covenant had found her, had nearly taken her, had almost destroyed everything she was starting to care about. And her grandmother, her supposedly dead grandmother, had saved them all while dropping bombshells about bloodlines and bridges between worlds. Elara looked up at the sky. The storm clouds she'd unconsciously summoned were dissipating, revealing stars that looked cold and distant. Somewhere out there, the Covenant would wake up tomorrow with false memories. But memories could be recovered. Technology could track what magic erased. This wasn't over. And now, instead of just running from her past, Elara had to figure out what the hell her grandmother meant by bridge between worlds. Ronan emerged from the medical cabin, pulling on a shirt someone had tossed him. He walked straight to her, cupped her face in both hands, and kissed her forehead, brief but fierce. "You're alive," he said. Simple statement. Profound relief. "Barely. Barely counts." He pulled her against his chest, and she let him, too exhausted to maintain distance. "Your grandmother's stable, depleted but healing. She wants to talk to you when she's stronger." "I don't know if I'm ready for that conversation." "Then we wait until you are." His arms tightened around her. "But Elara, whatever she tells you, whatever you learn about yourself, it doesn't change this. You're still you, still Pac, still your mate?" The words came out bitter. "Even if I'm some kind of weapon, some bridge to other worlds?" "Especially then." No hesitation in his voice. "I told you, the bond doesn't care about circumstances, only truth." Elara pulled back enough to see his face. "What if the truth is that I'm dangerous? That keeping me here puts everyone at risk?" "Then we manage the risk, together." Ronan's eyes were amber again, human again, but no less intense. "You're not going through this alone. Not anymore. Accept that or don't, but it's not changing." She wanted to argue, wanted to push him away, maintain the walls that had kept her alive this long. But standing in the wreckage of a battlefield she'd survived because people had chosen to fight for her, people she barely knew, who owed her nothing, those walls felt less like protection and more like prison. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. I'll stay. I'll learn. Whatever my grandmother needs to tell me, I'll listen." "Good." Ronan pressed another kiss to her forehead. "Now come inside. You're shaking, and it's not from the cold." He was right. Adrenaline crash, delayed shock, the weight of everything finally catching up. Elara let him guide her toward the house, past pack members cleaning up the devastation, toward warmth and safety. Behind them, the forest slowly returned to normal, birds cautiously resuming their songs, the wind carrying away the smell of smoke and blood. But in the medical cabin, a grandmother who shouldn't exist slept with secrets that could change everything. And deep in a Covenant facility 3 states away, alarms were starting to sound as someone noticed that an entire strike team had gone offline. The storm hadn't ended. It was just beginning. It was just beginning. Grandmother woke 3 days later. Elara had been sitting vigil in the medical cabin for most of that time, alternating with Ronan when exhaustion forced her to sleep. Sarah had tried to send her away, insisting rest would help more than hovering, but Elara couldn't leave. Not when the person who'd supposedly been dead for 14 years was lying unconscious 20 feet away. When those ancient eyes finally opened, Elara was alone. Dawn light filtered through the window, painting everything in shades of gold. Grandmother blinked slowly, oriented herself, then found Elara sitting in the corner. "You look terrible," Grandmother said. Her voice was raspy but strong. "You died." Elara's response came out flat. "They told me you died when I was 10. Showed me a death certificate. Let me grieve." "I know, I'm sorry." Grandmother pushed herself upright, waving away Elara's instinctive move to help. "It was necessary. The Covenant was closing in, and as long as they thought I was alive, they'd never stop hunting you. So you faked your death and left me there. Alone. Not alone. Protected." Grandmother's expression was pained. "I made a deal with the Covenant leadership, my willing cooperation with their research in exchange for your safety. They promised you'd be treated well, educated, given a chance at a normal life within the facility." Elara laughed, sharp and bitter. "Normal? They treated me like a lab rat, tested me constantly, monitored everything, planned to kill me the moment I stopped being useful. They broke the agreement." Grandmother's hands clenched into fists. "I gave them everything, my knowledge, my blood, access to abilities they'd only theorized about, and they repaid that by planning your execution." "How do you know about that?" "Because I've been watching, always." Grandmother met her eyes. "I couldn't intervene directly. Doing so would have violated the agreement and put you at greater risk. But I tracked you. Every facility they moved you to, every test they ran. When I learned about the disposal protocols, I started making plans. Plans that included letting me escape on my own, letting me think I was alone for 6 months. Plans that included weakening the Covenant's infrastructure from within while you learn to survive in the real world. Grandmother's voice hardened. You needed to be strong, Elara. What's coming, what you're meant to face, it requires more than just power. It requires the will to use it. What's coming? You keep saying that like I'm supposed to know what it means. Grandmother stood, moving to the window. She looked older in the daylight, worn in ways that went beyond physical age. Have you ever wondered why the Covenant exists? Why they collect people with abilities? To study us, use us. That's what they want you to think. The truth is more complicated. Grandmother turned back to face her. There are barriers between our world and others, thin places where reality gets flexible. For most of human history, those barriers have held firm, but they're weakening, and when they break, and they will break, things from the other side will come through. Elara's skin prickled. Things like what? Entities that make your lightning look like a parlor trick, forces that could reshape continents if left unchecked. Grandmother's expression was grave. The Covenant knows this. They've been preparing for it by collecting individuals whose abilities might serve as weapons against the incursion. So they're not just monsters. They're, preparing for war? They're creating an army of the gifted, yes, but under their control on their terms. Anyone who doesn't submit gets eliminated. Grandmother moved closer. Your bloodline, our bloodline, we're different. We don't just wield power. We are the bridge. We can close the barriers, strengthen them, maybe even repair what's been damaged. That's why the Covenant wanted you. Not as a weapon, but as a tool to seal their enemies away while they consolidate power. The implications settled over Elara like a weight. You're saying I'm supposed to save the world? I'm saying you have the potential to change it, for better or worse. Grandmother's hand landed on her shoulder. But first, you need to learn what you really are, what we really are. Stormborn, you said that before. It's more than a name. It's a lineage going back thousands of years. Before governments, before civilization as we know it. We were the guardians, the ones who maintained balance between worlds. Grandmother's eyes began to glow, the same blue-white as Elara's lightning. Let me show you. She placed her palm against Elara's forehead. The world exploded into sensation. Images flooded Elara's mind, not memories, but knowledge transmitted directly. She saw civilizations that predated recorded history. People like her, like grandmother, standing at thin places in reality and weaving power into barriers. Saw what happened when those barriers failed. Creatures of nightmare pouring through, entire cities consumed in days. Saw the original Covenant forming not as villains, but as allies, working alongside the Stormborn to protect humanity. Saw the slow corruption, power struggles. The Stormborn systematically hunted and eliminated until only scattered remnants remained. Saw her own mother, a face Elara had never known, dying to protect a pregnant woman who ran until she couldn't run anymore. Giving birth in a Covenant facility. Naming her daughter Elara before the complications took her. Saw grandmother arriving too late, finding only a newborn and a choice. Run and doom the child to a life on the run, or make a deal and hope for the best. The vision released her. Elara staggered, gasping, tears streaming down her face. Your mother was brave, grandmother said softly. She knew the Covenant was hunting our bloodline to extinction. She died making sure you survived. I never knew her name. Lysandra. She was fierce and brilliant and loved you desperately in the hours she had. Grandmother's voice cracked. I failed her. Failed you. But I won't fail you again. Elara wiped her eyes roughly. What do you want from me? I want you to choose. The barriers are failing. That's not negotiable. Within a year, maybe less, things will start coming through. You can hide from that reality, or you can prepare to meet it. Prepare how? By learning to use your full abilities, not just the lightning. That's the surface expression. You're meant to weave reality itself, to strengthen what's weak, to seal what's broken. Grandmother's expression was intense. And you'll need allies. The pack is a good start, but it won't be enough. You'll need others like you, others with abilities the Covenant has been hoarding. You want me to raid Covenant facilities? Elara said it flatly. I want you to liberate people who deserve freedom, people who could fight beside you when the time comes. Grandmother smiled slightly. But yes, raiding Covenant facilities would be an excellent start. The cabin door opened. Ronan entered, stopped when he saw them both awake. Should I come back? No. Grandmother studied him with interest. You're the alpha, the one who claimed my granddaughter as mate. I am. Ronan didn't flinch under that ancient gaze. Good. You'll need to be strong for what's ahead. Grandmother looked between them. The mate bond. Has it completed? No, Elara said quickly. I haven't. We're not. She's still deciding if she trusts me, Ronan supplied. I'm patient. Don't be too patient. Completed bonds are exponentially more powerful than one-sided ones. Grandmother moved toward the door. I need food, and then we need to plan. Gather your pack council. It's time they understood what they've gotten themselves into. She left before either could respond. Elara turned to Ronan. Did you hear any of that? Most of it. Sarah has excellent acoustics in her cabin. He moved closer. Barriers between worlds. Impending invasion. Your bloodline being hunted to extinction. Did I miss anything? Just the part where I'm apparently supposed to fix all of it. Sounds about right. Ronan's expression was thoughtful. You planning to do it? I don't know. I don't know anything anymore except that the person I thought was dead isn't, and the organization I thought was purely evil might have started with good intentions, and I'm somehow supposed to be a bridge between realities. She sank onto the bed Grandmother had vacated. This is insane. Most definitely. Ronan sat beside her. But insane doesn't mean impossible, and you're not doing it alone. You can't possibly want the pack involved in this. The pack goes where I go, and I go where you go. Simple math. He took her hand, threading their fingers together. Besides, fighting interdimensional threats sounds more interesting than arguing about jackets. Despite everything, Elara felt her lips twitch. You're ridiculous. I've been told. His thumb traced patterns on her palm. But I'm your ridiculous if you want me. The bond. She could feel it now that she was looking for it. A thread connecting them, fragile but present, waiting for her to accept it fully, to let it solidify into something unbreakable. Part of her wanted to. Wanted the certainty, the connection, the promise of not being alone. But the larger part, the part that had survived 6 months of running, 14 years of captivity, a lifetime of being used, that part was still terrified of trusting anyone that completely. I'm not ready, she said quietly. I know. It's okay. Ronan stood, pulled her up with him. Come on. Your grandmother's going to eat everything in the kitchen if we don't supervise, and we should probably warn the others before she starts making strategic plans. The pack council consisted of Ronan, Kira, Garrett, and Sarah. They gathered in the main house while the rest of the pack maintained perimeter watch, heightened since the Covenant attack, even with Grandmother's memory modifications. Grandmother laid it out with brutal efficiency. The barriers, the coming incursion, the Covenant's dual role as both threat and potential ally. The need to free others with abilities, to build an army before the enemy arrived. Kira listened with growing incredulity. You're talking about starting a war. I'm talking about preventing one, or at least improving our odds of surviving it. Grandmother's tone was matter-of-fact. The Covenant has 53 facilities across North America alone. Each houses between 10 and 30 individuals with documented abilities. That's potentially 1,500 people who could fight beside us. Or who could be too broken to fight, too controlled, too far gone. Garrett's expression was troubled. The Covenants had years to condition them. What makes you think they'll just walk away? Because Elara did, and she's not unique, just the only one who succeeded. Grandmother looked at Elara. You know what they do to people in those facilities. The testing, the control, the fear. Given a real choice, how many do you think would choose freedom? Most of them. Elara's voice was quiet but certain. Not all. Some are true believers. They think the Covenant is protecting them. But most, they'd run if they thought they could survive. Then we give them that option. Grandmother pulled out a tablet. Where she'd gotten it, Elara had no idea, and brought up a map. We start with the closest facility, Montana, about 200 miles north. Small operation, maybe 15 subjects. We go in, present the choice, extract anyone who wants out. Just like that? Kira's skepticism was obvious. You think the Covenant's going to let us waltz in and steal their assets? I think Elara can disable their technology within 50 feet. I think your pack can move through security like it doesn't exist. And I think together we can hit them before they know we're there. Grandmother's smile was sharp. They've gotten complacent. They think they eliminated all the Stormborn except Elara. They think she's running scared. We use that arrogance against them. Ronan leaned forward, studying the map. Guard count, response time, extraction routes. 20 guards on rotation. Response time from the nearest backup facility is 45 minutes. 3 viable extraction routes, though the eastern one is preferable, leads directly into federal wilderness where vehicles can't follow. Grandmother zoomed in. I've been planning this for months, since before Elara escaped, actually. Just needed her free and strong enough to participate. You've been using me as bait. Elara's realization was cold. I've been positioning you as a catalyst. There's a difference. Grandmother met her eyes without apology. You needed to learn to survive on your own, to trust your instincts, to develop your abilities under pressure. Now you have. Now you're ready. Ready to lead people out of captivity when I barely escaped myself? Ready to give others the same chance you got, to offer hope instead of just survival. Grandmother's expression softened. You don't have to do this, but I think you want to. I think you remember what it felt like to be trapped, and you don't want anyone else to feel that way. She was right. Elara hated that she was right. When? Elara asked. 3 days. Gives us time to prepare, to scout the perimeter, to coordinate with the pack. Grandmother looked at Ronan. I'll need your fastest runners for reconnaissance, and your best fighters for the actual extraction. You'll have them. Ronan's decision was immediate, under one condition. Which is? Elara leads. Not you, not me. Her. Ronan's gaze was steady. These people need to see someone like them offering freedom, someone who understands what they've been through. That's not you, and it's not me. It's her. Grandmother considered this, then nodded slowly. Agreed. But she'll need training, fast, intensive, focused. I'll handle it, Kira said. Everyone turned to look at her in surprise. She shrugged. What? Girl's got guts. Proved it in the fight. Besides, someone needs to make sure she doesn't get herself killed being heroic. I'm not heroic, Elara protested. Not yet. But you're getting there. Kira stood. We start tomorrow. Dawn. Bring your lightning and be ready to actually learn how to fight instead of just throwing power around randomly. The council continued for another hour, hammering out logistics and contingencies. By the time it dispersed, Elara's head was spinning with tactical details and strategic considerations. She found herself alone in the kitchen afterward, staring at the map on Grandmother's tablet. The Montana facility looked small on screen, innocent even, but she knew what those walls held. The fear, the hopelessness, the slow erosion of self. Second thoughts? Luna appeared in the doorway, 2 mugs of tea in hand. Constant thoughts, not sure if they qualify as second or third or 100th at this point. Elara accepted the tea gratefully. How much did you hear? Everything, Sarah's acoustics, remember? Luna settled into a chair. For what it's worth, I think you can do this. Based on what evidence? Based on the fact that you survived what should have killed you. Based on the fact that you're still here, still fighting, still trying, despite every reason to give up. Luna's smile was warm. That's not luck, Elara. That's strength. It's stubbornness. Same thing, different packaging. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the forest in shades of amber and shadow. Elara could hear pack members moving through their evening routines, familiar sounds that had become comforting in the weeks she'd been here. Weeks. Had it really only been weeks? It felt like longer. Can I ask you something? Luna said eventually. Sure. Why haven't you completed the bond with Ronan? Elara's hands tightened around her mug. That's personal. I know. You don't have to answer, but I'm curious. Luna's expression was open, genuinely interested. He's a good alpha, strong, fair, protective, and the way he looks at you, most people would kill for that kind of devotion. That's the problem. He's devoted to someone he doesn't really know. The bond is just biology, chemistry, It's not real, isn't it? The bond forms based on compatibility, not just physical, but emotional, psychological. Your souls recognize each other. Luna leaned forward. I know it sounds like mystical nonsense, but I've seen completed bonds. They're not perfect. People still fight, still disagree. But there's a foundation there that makes everything else easier. Or it makes you vulnerable. Gives someone power to hurt you that much deeper. That too, Luna acknowledged. But isn't that true of any relationship? The risk is what makes it worthwhile. Elara didn't have an answer for that. She'd never had relationships, not real ones. The Covenant had kept her isolated, surrounded by handlers and scientists and subjects like herself who were too damaged to connect. Think about it, Luna said, standing. Not for Ronan's sake, for yours. Because I think you're scared of more than just the bond. You're scared of belonging, of having something you could lose. She left before Elara could respond. Damn werewolves and their insight. The next 3 days were brutal. Kira trained her with the kind of intensity that suggested she was either trying to kill Elara or forge her into something unbreakable. Possibly both. Combat techniques, tactical thinking, reading body language, predicting attacks. Elara absorbed it all, driven by the knowledge that lives would depend on her competence. Grandmother worked with her separately on her abilities. Not just the lightning, but the deeper power, the reality weaving she'd inherited. It was harder, required focus and control Elara didn't naturally possess. But slowly, painfully, she began to understand. The lightning was expression. The weaving was foundation. Together, they could reshape the battlefield itself. Ronan coordinated the pack, assigning roles and running drills. Garrett and Marcus on reconnaissance, returning with detailed intelligence about guard rotations and security measures. Thomas and Jace on logistics, preparing extraction vehicles and supply caches. Sarah assembling medical equipment for potential casualties. Everyone had a role. Everyone was committed. On the third night, Elara couldn't sleep. She stood on the porch of the main house, watching stars emerge through gaps in the clouds, and tried not to think about all the ways this could go catastrophically wrong. Footsteps behind her. She knew without looking it was Ronan. You should rest, he said, moving to stand beside her. Should, can't. She glanced at him. You? Same. He was quiet for a moment. You ready for tomorrow? No, but I don't think I'll ever be ready, so that's probably irrelevant. Probably. His hand found hers, warm and steady. For what it's worth, I believe in you. The pack believes in you. Why? I've done nothing to earn that. You stood your ground when the Covenant attacked. You're planning to risk your life to free strangers. You train until you can barely stand because you refuse to be the weak link. Ronan's thumb traced patterns on her palm. That's not nothing, Elara. She wanted to argue, wanted to list all the ways she was inadequate, unprepared, likely to fail. Instead, she turned to face him. If this goes wrong tomorrow, it won't. But if it does, if I die or get captured or... She swallowed hard. Thank you for everything. For taking me in, for protecting me, for believing I was worth the trouble. Ronan's expression went fierce. You're not dying tomorrow. I won't allow it. You can't control that. Watch me. He pulled her closer, and this time she didn't resist. Let herself lean into his warmth, his certainty, his absolute conviction that they'd survive this. The bond hummed between them, still incomplete, still waiting, but stronger now, fed by trust and proximity and the slow erosion of her defenses. After tomorrow, Ronan said quietly, when we've brought those people home safe, when you've proven to yourself what I already know, maybe then you'll be ready. Ready for what? To stop running, to stay, to accept that you're not alone anymore, and you never will be again. His arms tightened around her. To complete the bond and let me love you the way you deserve. Elara's breath caught. That's a lot of pressure for one mission. Consider it motivation not to die. She could hear the smile in his voice. Because I'm not giving up on you, Elara Voss. Not now. Not ever. They stood like that until the cold drove them inside. Until strategy replaced emotion and tactical planning buried vulnerability. But the warmth lingered. The possibility. Dawn came too fast. The pack assembled in the pre-dawn darkness, 9 fighters, including Elara, grandmother providing oversight and emergency support. The plan was simple in theory: disable security, infiltrate the facility, present the choice, extract anyone willing to leave. In practice, Elara knew nothing was ever that simple. They moved out as the sun broke the horizon. 3 vehicles, heavily modified for speed and off-road capability. The drive took 4 hours, the last 2 on increasingly rough terrain. They parked 2 miles from the facility and covered the rest on foot. Elara's heart hammered as they approached, her hands already tingling with gathering power. The facility looked like a corporate campus: clean lines, manicured lawn, the kind of place that belonged in Silicon Valley rather than rural Montana. But Elara could feel the wrongness underneath. The fear soaked into the walls. "Guard change in 5 minutes," Marcus whispered, checking his watch. "That's our window." Elara nodded, stepped forward, reached for her power. The lightning came easier now, weeks of training paying off. She directed it precisely, targeting security systems, cameras, electronic locks. Not destroying, just disrupting, creating chaos without casualties. Alarms should have sounded, they didn't. Her EMP effect was wider than expected, killing the backup systems too. "Go!" Ronan ordered. The pack moved like shadows. Kira and Thomas neutralizing guards with brutal efficiency, unconscious, not dead, as agreed. Garrett and Luna securing the exits. Marcus and Jace heading for the control room. Elara and Ronan went straight for the holding cells. The layout was familiar. She'd lived in facilities like this for 24 years. Knew where they'd keep the subjects, how they'd secure them, what protocols they'd follow. She was right. 3rd floor, east wing. Reinforced doors with biometric locks. Her lightning made short work of the locks. The first cell held a girl, maybe 16, huddled in the corner with terror in her eyes. "Please don't hurt me. I'll be good. I promise." "We're not here to hurt you." Elara kept her voice gentle. "We're here to offer you a choice. Freedom or stay. Your decision." The girl stared. "This is a test. They do this sometimes. Test our loyalty." "It's not a test. I'm like you. I escaped 6 months ago. And I'm here to help others do the same." She showed her hands, the lightning scars visible even in the dim light. The girl's eyes widened. "You're the one they're hunting. The Stormborn." "Yes, and I'm offering you the same chance I got. Come with us or stay. But choose fast, we don't have much time." The girl stood on shaking legs. "Take me, please. I'll do anything, just get me out of here." They moved through the facility systematically, cell by cell, choice by choice. Some said yes immediately. Others were suspicious, afraid, convinced it was a trap. A few chose to stay, too indoctrinated or too frightened of the outside world. Elara didn't judge, just marked them as non-combatants and moved on. They'd freed 11 people when the comms crackled. "Ronan," Marcus's voice, tight with stress. "We've got a problem. The Covenant Regional Director is on site, and she knows we're here." "How?" Ronan demanded. "Silent alarm we missed. She's locked down the building and called for backup. ETA, 15 minutes. 15 minutes. They'd be lucky to make it to the vehicles in that time, let alone extract everyone." "Contingency plan?" Kira's voice. "We fight our way out," Ronan said. "Standard breakout formation. Elara, I'll handle the director." Elara was already moving toward the stairs. "Get everyone to the vehicles. I'll buy you time." "Elara, no. Trust me." She looked back at him. "I know what I'm doing." Lie. She had no idea what she was doing, but someone had to delay their pursuers, and she was the only one who could face a Covenant director without dying immediately. She found the director in her office, middle-aged woman, expensive suit, the kind of calm that suggested she'd been through this before. "Elara Voss," the director smiled. "We've been looking for you. I noticed. You're going to let my people leave. Or what? You'll kill me? You're not a killer, Elara. Your psychological profile is very clear on that." "Profiles can be wrong." Elara let lightning dance between her fingers. "And I've gotten a lot more comfortable with violence in the past few months. Comfortable enough to murder an unarmed woman? Comfortable enough to do what's necessary." Elara stepped forward. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to unlock the facility. You're going to tell your backup to stand down. and you're going to forget we were ever here. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'm going to do to you what my grandmother did to Dr. Chen, fry every memory of the past 72 hours right out of your skull. Elara was bluffing. She had no idea if she could actually do that, but her grandmother had, so maybe it was hereditary. The director's composure cracked slightly. You're bluffing. Am I? Elara reached for the deeper power, the reality weaving her grandmother had shown her, felt it respond, eager and wild. Want to find out? The director's eyes widened as the air began to shimmer around Elara, as reality itself seemed to bend in response to her will. Unlock it, Elara said softly. Now. The director's hand moved to her computer, entered the override code. Throughout the facility, doors began unlocking, barriers retracting. Good. Now call off your backup. I can't. They have standing orders. Then I suggest you find a way to modify those orders. Lightning crackled up Elara's arms. Because the alternative is very unpleasant for you. The director picked up her phone, made the call. Elara listened to her spin a story about false alarms and system malfunctions, how the situation was under control and backup wasn't needed. She was a good liar, professional. Excellent, Elara said when the director hung up. Now you're going to sit there quietly for the next 20 minutes. Don't call for help. Don't try to follow us. Don't do anything except contemplate your career choices. And if I don't? Elara leaned forward, let the full weight of her power show. Let the director see what she'd become in 6 months of survival and 3 days of intensive training. Then I stopped being nice, Elara said, and you really don't want that. She left the director sitting there, pale and shaking, and ran. The pack was already at the vehicles, loading freed subjects into the beds of trucks and the back of a van. Ronan saw her coming, and relief flooded his face. Everyone accounted for? Elara asked. 11 subjects, all pack members, minimal casualties, Kira reported. 2 guards with concussions, 1 with a broken arm, nothing fatal. Then let's move. They drove hard and fast, putting distance between them and the facility. No pursuit followed. The director had kept her word, or was just too scared to do otherwise. It wasn't until they were 50 miles out, deep in federal wilderness, that anyone spoke. You did it! Luna's voice was awed. You actually did it! Elara looked at the people huddled in the truck beds, scared, exhausted, but free. 11 lives changed in one night. 11 people given the choice she'd fought so hard for. We did it, she corrected. All of us. First of many, grandmother said from the front seat. She was smiling, fierce and proud. The Covenant just learned that hunting the Stormborn has consequences. Let's see how they like being prey for a change. Back at the compound, chaos reigned as they integrated the new arrivals. Sarah triaging medical needs, Luna assigning temporary housing, Garrett explaining pack protocols. Elara stood apart, watching it all unfold, and felt something shift inside her. This was what she was meant to do. Not hide, not run, but fight. Free people, give them the same chance she'd gotten. Ronan found her as the sun set. You were incredible today. I threatened to fry someone's brain, and made it stick, without actually hurting her. He pulled her close. That's leadership, Elara. That's power used right. She let herself lean into him, exhaustion and exhilaration making her boneless. 1 facility down, 52 to go. We'll get there, together. His hand cupped her face. But tonight, we celebrate. We won. We saved lives. That matters. He was right. It did matter. Around them, the pack was already breaking out bottles of something that smelled alcoholic, and probably wasn't legal. The freed subjects were being welcomed, integrated, shown that freedom meant community, not just escape. And Elara stood in the center of it all, no longer alone, no longer running. For the first time since she could remember, she felt like she belonged. The bond with Ronan pulsed, warm and waiting. She still wasn't ready to complete it. But maybe soon. Tomorrow they'd plan the next raid. Tomorrow she'd continue training, continue growing into whatever she was meant to become. But tonight, she'd let herself celebrate. Let herself feel the victory, however small. Because the director's face when Elara had shown her true power, that fear, that recognition, It had been worth everything. The hunted had become the hunter. And the Covenant was about to learn exactly how dangerous that could be. And the Covenant was about to learn exactly how dangerous that could be. They came 6 weeks later with everything they had. Not a strike team, not a reconnaissance unit. An army. Elara stood on the ridge overlooking the compound, watching the horizon turn black with incoming helicopters and ground vehicles. 50, maybe 60 units, hundreds of operatives. Equipment that made the first attack look like a training exercise. "They're not here to capture you anymore," Grandmother said beside her. "They're here to eliminate the threat. All of us." In those 6 weeks, they'd hit 4 more facilities, freed 63 people, built a community of the gifted that was starting to look less like refugees and more like an actual resistance. Word had spread. The Stormborn was alive, fighting back, offering freedom to anyone brave enough to take it. The Covenant's response was predictable. Overwhelming force, total annihilation. "We can't win this fight," Kira said from Elara's other side. "Even with everyone we've freed, we're outgunned and outnumbered." "Then we don't fight it." Elara's voice was calm despite the terror racing through her veins. "We changed the rules." She'd been planning this since the second raid, since she'd realized the Covenant would eventually come with everything they had, since Grandmother had shown her the full extent of what the Stormborn could do. "Ronan," she called into her radio, "execute evacuation protocol. Get everyone to the fallback position." "Elara, what are you—" "Trust me. Please." She met his eyes across the distance. He was coordinating the defense from the main house, visible through the trees. "Get them safe. I'll handle this." "Not alone you won't." Grandmother's hand landed on her shoulder. "This is what I've been preparing you for. What we've both been preparing for. You said you were depleted, that using that much power again could kill you. Everything worth doing has a cost." Grandmother's smile was sad and fierce. "I've lived long enough, little Storm. Time to pass the torch properly." "No." Elara grabbed her arm. "I won't let you sacrifice yourself. It's not sacrifice. It's completion." Grandmother turned to face her fully. The bloodline, the power, it was always meant to be transferred. Mother to daughter, grandmother to granddaughter. I held it as long as I could, waiting for you to be ready. Now you are. The helicopters were closer now, minutes away. "I don't know how, You do. I showed you. The weaving, the reality bending, it's all there, waiting." Grandmother placed both hands on either side of Elara's face. "You just have to be brave enough to take it. It'll kill you. I'm already dying, cancer, about 6 months left. I was going to tell you after we'd secured a few more facilities." Grandmother's expression was gentle. "Let me do this. Let me give you what you need to protect everyone, to be the bridge we were meant to be." Tears streamed down Elara's face. "I just got you back. And I gave you what time I could. Now give me a good death. A useful one." Grandmother's eyes began to glow, that familiar blue-white. "Open yourself. Accept what I'm offering. And then show these bastards what the Stormborn really are." Elara wanted to argue, wanted to find another way. But the helicopters were landing, operatives pouring out, and her people, her pack, her community, were in danger. She opened herself. The transfer was agony and ecstasy and everything between. Power flooding into her like lightning in reverse. Not one ability, but thousands. Memories, knowledge, the accumulated wisdom of a bloodline stretching back millennia. Every Stormborn who'd ever lived, channeling through Grandmother into Elara. She felt her grandmother's life force fading. Felt the cancer eating away at her from within. Felt the relief as the burden of power finally lifted. Felt the moment Grandmother's heart stopped. Elara caught her as she fell, cradled her close. "No, don't, please. Be brave." Grandmother's voice was barely a whisper. "Be strong. Be the bridge. Save them all." Her eyes found Elara's one last time. "Your mother would be so proud." Then she was gone, body going limp, the ancient light fading from her eyes. Elara held her and screamed, raw grief tearing out of her throat, shaking the earth itself. Lightning split the sky, not weather, not natural, her power responding to her anguish, magnified 1,000-fold by what Grandmother had given her. The Covenant forces hesitated. Trained professionals suddenly uncertain in the face of that rage. Elara laid grandmother's body gently on the ground, stood, turned to face the approaching army. She was done running, done hiding, done being afraid. The barrier between her world and the others, she could feel it now. Thin places scattered across the continent, weakening by the day. Things pressing against it from the other side, waiting for the moment it failed completely. But she could also feel how to fix it, how to strengthen it, how to seal it permanently if needed. The Covenant wanted her for that ability, wanted to control her, use her as a tool to reshape reality according to their vision. They should have asked nicely. "Last warning," Elara called out, her voice carrying on wind. She commanded. "Leave now. Forget you were here. Go back to your facilities and leave us alone." A voice crackled over a loudspeaker. "Elara Voss, surrender immediately. Your resistance has been noted and will be factored into your reconditioning protocol." Reconditioning. Not imprisonment. Reconditioning. Like she was a broken machine they could reprogram. Wrong answer. Elara reached for the new power. Not the lightning, that was surface level, flashy, but limited. This was deeper. This was touching the fundamental fabric of reality and pulling threads. She wove. The ground beneath the Covenant forces began to shift. Not violently. She wasn't trying to kill them. Just firmly, insistently rearranging itself into barriers and obstacles. Trenches opening. Trees growing at accelerated speed, creating walls of living wood. The earth itself rising to defend her home. Operatives stumbled, fell, scrambled for stable ground that kept moving under their feet. "Subdue her," someone screamed. "All units, weapons free." They opened fire. Hundreds of rounds, specialized ammunition designed to disrupt bioelectric fields, conventional bullets, even what looked like rocket launchers. Elara wove the air itself into shields. Bullets stopped mid-flight, hanging suspended. Rockets detonated harmlessly against barriers of compressed atmosphere. "This is your last chance," she said. Power thrummed in every word, reality bending to her will. "I don't want to hurt you, but I will protect my people. Choose." Instead of responding, they escalated. A helicopter launched something that looked experimental, a weapon designed to generate a dampening field like the one they'd used in the first attack. Elara felt it activate, felt her connection to her power start to fade, to sever, and she reached past it, grabbed the threads of reality itself, and pulled. The weapon stopped working, just ceased functioning, its complex machinery unable to affect someone who could rewrite the rules it operated under. "No more," Elara's voice was thunder. "No more hunting, no more facilities, no more treating people like weapons to be controlled." She reached out with her new awareness, found every Covenant facility in a 1,000-mile radius, found the prisoners, the gifted people locked away, tested, controlled. And she opened every door, not literally, but she disabled every security system, unlocked every cell, severed every electronic restraint, simultaneously, across hundreds of miles. Alarms blared in facilities from Montana to Texas. Prisoners stumbled out of cells into corridors, realizing they were suddenly free. Guards scrambled to respond, but their equipment was dead, their protocols useless. Elara felt all of it through the weave. Felt the chaos, the confusion, the desperate hope of people seeing freedom for the first time. "That's 63 facilities emptied in the last 90 seconds, she told the Covenant forces. "Every person you've imprisoned, every gifted individual you've exploited, they're free now. And if you try to recapture them, I'll do it again and again, until you learn." "This is an act of war," the voice on the loudspeaker shouted. "No, this is defense. You declared war when you hunted my family to extinction. When you built prisons disguised as research facilities, when you treated human beings like property." Elara's eyes were blazing now, literally, blue-white light spilling from them. "I'm just evening the odds." A new voice cut through the comms, older, authoritative. "Elara Voss, this is Director Martinez, Covenant Central Command. Stand down and we can negotiate." "I don't negotiate with slavers. We're not—" Martinez paused. "This situation has escalated beyond acceptable parameters. I'm authorized to offer a ceasefire." "I'm listening." "You release our operatives unharmed. We withdraw our forces. We discuss terms for a lasting peace." It was a trap. Had to be. But Elara could feel the uncertainty in the Covenant forces, could see operatives exchanging glances, questioning orders. They'd never faced someone who could fight back on this scale. Never encountered a Stormborn at full power. They were terrified, and terror made people unpredictable. "Ronan," she said into her radio. "Status?" "Everyone's evacuated. We're secure." His voice was tight. "What do you need?" "Be ready to run if this goes bad. But I think—" She paused. "I think maybe we can end this without more bloodshed." "Your call. We trust you." Those 3 words settled something in her chest. "We trust you." She turned her attention back to Martinez. "Here are my terms. You withdraw all forces from this territory. You shut down the facilities, permanently. You stop hunting the gifted. In exchange, I don't dismantle your organization brick by brick." "That's not acceptable. The facilities serve a vital— They serve your control fetish. Nothing more." Elara's voice cut like ice. "The barriers between worlds are failing. You know this. You've been studying it for decades. But you can't fix it through imprisonment and experimentation. You fix it through cooperation." Silence on the other end. Then, "You're proposing an alliance? I'm proposing you stop being the enemy. Start being partners. There are things coming that will make your worst nightmares look like bedtime stories. When they arrive, you'll need people like me fighting beside you, not against you. And if we refuse, then I keep dismantling your operations until you don't have the resources to refuse anymore." Elara gestured and the ground rumbled, just a reminder of what she could do. "Your choice. But make it fast. My patience has limits." Martinez was quiet for a long moment. She could hear arguments in the background, voices raised in disagreement. Finally, "We need time to discuss this with the board. You have 24 hours. After that, I start visiting facilities personally. And trust me, you don't want that." Elara looked at the assembled forces. "Now withdraw, slowly. Anyone who tries anything aggressive becomes a cautionary tale." The order must have been given. Operatives began retreating to their vehicles, movements careful, weapons lowered. The helicopters lifted off one by one, banking away from the compound. Elara held the weave until the last one disappeared over the horizon. Then she let it drop, exhaustion slamming into her like a physical blow. She collapsed to her knees beside grandmother's body, footsteps behind her, Ronan moving fast. His arms caught her before she could fall completely. "I've got you," he whispered. "You did it. You actually did it." "She's gone." Elara's voice broke. "I couldn't save her." "She didn't want saving. She wanted to give you what you needed." Ronan held her tighter. "And she did. You're incredible, Elara. Terrifying and incredible." The pack emerged from the forest. The freed gifted individuals returning from their evacuation points. All of them staring at Elara with expressions ranging from awe to fear to desperate hope. She'd become something more than human in the past hour. Something powerful enough to face down an army and win. Something that could reshape reality itself. But sitting there in Ronan's arms, holding her grandmother's cooling hand, she just felt small and broken and desperately sad. "We need to prepare her body properly," grandmother's voice whispered through her mind. Not real, just memory, the knowledge transfer still settling. "Our traditions, little storm, remember them." She did remember. Ancient rites for the stormborn dead, returning the body to the earth, the power to the sky, completing the cycle. "Help me," she said to Ronan. There are things we need to do." They built a pyre as the sun set, not just Ronan and Elara, but the whole pack. Even the newly freed individuals contributed, gathering wood and stones, building something beautiful and sacred. Elara laid grandmother's body at the center, arranged her carefully. Around her neck, she placed the pendant grandmother had worn, a silver chain with a crystal that pulsed with stored lightning. "For the next generation," grandmother had told her once. "When you have a daughter, you'll give this to her." And the bloodline continues. Elara wasn't ready to think about daughters, about the future stretching beyond the next crisis. But she kept the pendant anyway, trusting it would matter someday. As night fell, they lit the pyre. Flames rose, and Elara called lightning to join them. Not destructive, cleansing. Returning her grandmother's power to the sky where it belonged. The pack howled. The freed gifted individuals joined in their own ways, some crying, some singing, some just standing witness, and Elara felt the bond with Ronan pulse, demanding attention. She'd been avoiding it for weeks, even after grandmother's sacrifice, even after proving herself in combat, she'd held back that final step. But standing there watching her grandmother's essence return to the elements, feeling the weight of new power settling into her bones, she realized grandmother had been right. She was ready. Elara turned to Ronan. He was watching the pyre, expression solemn, but he felt her gaze and met her eyes. "I'm ready," she said quietly. He understood immediately. "You don't have to. I know, but I want to." She took his hand, threading their fingers together. "I've been so scared of trusting anyone completely, of giving someone that much power over me. But you've never asked for power, just offered partnership. Always? Then I accept. The bond, the mate claim, all of it." She smiled despite her tears. "You're stuck with me now. Fair warning, I'm a disaster." "My favorite kind of disaster." Ronan pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. "This is going to feel intense." "I can handle intense." Famous last words. The bond completion was like lightning and fire and coming home all at once. She felt Ronan's emotions crash into hers, love and pride and fierce protectiveness. Felt his wolf recognize her absolutely, claiming her as pack and mate and everything important. Felt her own power surge in response, weaving them together on a fundamental level. Not ownership, partnership. Two halves, finally whole. When it settled, Elara was gasping, clinging to Ronan like he was the only solid thing in existence. "Told you," he said, slightly breathless himself. "Intense. That's one word for it." She kissed him then, first real kiss, nothing held back. Felt him respond with equal fervor, equal need. The pack howled again, this time in celebration. Someone, probably Luna, wolf whistled. "Finally! I thought I'd die of old age waiting for you two to figure it out." Elara pulled back, laughing despite everything. "Your pack is terrible." "Our pack," Ronan corrected. "You're alpha mate now. They're yours as much as mine." The weight of that settled over her. Not just one person trusting her, but 13, plus 63 freed individuals who'd look to her for leadership, plus whoever else they'd free in the coming months. "I don't know how to lead," she admitted. "You've been doing it for weeks. You just didn't realize." Ronan kissed her forehead. "But you don't have to do it alone. That's the whole point of the pack, of the bond. We carry it together." They stayed by the pyre until dawn. As the sun rose, the flames finally died, leaving only ash and the memory of someone who'd fought her whole life to protect her family. The pendant around Elara's neck pulsed once, then went still. "Goodbye," grandmother whispered through the weave. Not really there, but not really gone either. The Stormborn were never truly gone, just transformed, their power returning to the cycle, waiting for the next generation. The 24 hours passed with agonizing slowness. They used the time to fortify, to train, to prepare for the possibility that the Covenant would reject the terms and return with even more force. But as sunset approached, Elara's radio crackled. "Elara Voss, this is Director Martinez." She'd been expecting this. Still, her pulse kicked up. "I'm listening." "The board has reviewed your terms. After considerable debate and analysis of the situation, we've reached a decision." "And?" "We accept, with conditions." Elara's eyes widened. She'd been so certain they'd refuse, would choose annihilation over cooperation. "What conditions?" "First, you provide quarterly briefings on the barrier situation. We need to understand the threat timeline. Second, you assist with integration protocols for the freed individuals. Many of them have been institutionalized for years. They'll need support transitioning to independence. Third, if and when the barriers fail, you coordinate the defense. We provide resources and personnel, but you lead the gifted response." It was more than she'd hoped for, almost suspiciously reasonable. "And the facilities?" "Closed, permanently. We're repurposing them as integration centers, voluntary support for individuals who need help adjusting, but no imprisonment, no forced testing." Martinez paused. "We were wrong, Ms. Voss. The old model, control through fear and force, it was unsustainable. You proved that. We're adapting, How do I know you'll keep your word? You don't. But you have the power to hold us accountable. And frankly, making an enemy of someone who can dismantle our operations remotely seems remarkably stupid. Martinez's tone was dry. We're not allies, not yet. But we can be partners in survival. That's better than the alternative. Elara looked at Ronan. He nodded. Your call. Okay, she said. We have a deal. But Martinez? If you betray this, if you hurt even one person under the guise of integration, I will know, and I will respond accordingly. Understood. We'll be in touch to coordinate logistics. Martinez disconnected. The compound erupted in cheers. People who'd been braced for war suddenly celebrating peace. Tentative, fragile, but real. Kira approached, something like respect in her expression. You actually pulled it off, faced down the Covenant and won. We pulled it off, Elara corrected. All of us. I'm just the one with flashy powers. Don't sell yourself short. What you did yesterday, reshaping the battlefield, freeing hundreds of prisoners simultaneously, that's not flashy. That's revolutionary. Kira extended her hand. Welcome to the pack, Alpha Mate. For real this time. Elara shook it. Does this mean you'll stop threatening to throw me out? Probably not. Keeps you humble. Kira's smile was sharp. But I'll threaten with more affection now. The weeks that followed were chaos of a different kind. Integration logistics, freed individuals arriving in waves, setting up proper facilities to house and support them. The compound expanded from 13 people to over 100. Not all of them stayed. Some wanted to disappear into the human world, start fresh. But most remained, craving community, belonging, the chance to be around others who understood. Elara coordinated it all with a mix of terror and determination. She'd never led anything before, had no training in logistics or management. But she had the pack, had advisors like Garrett and Sarah, had Ronan beside her making sure she didn't collapse from exhaustion. And she had her power. The full breadth of what the Stormborn could do, settling into her bones, becoming natural instead of foreign. 3 months after grandmother's death, Elara stood on the same ridge where it had all happened. The compound below was transformed. New buildings, training grounds, people moving with purpose and hope instead of fear. Thinking about her? Luna asked, appearing beside her. Always. Elara touched the pendant at her throat. Wondering if she'd be proud of what we're building. She'd be proud you're alive, that you're fighting, that you turned pain into purpose. Luna bumped her shoulder. The rest is just details. Movement in the forest caught Elara's attention. Not threatening. She could feel the difference now, could sense intention through the weave. A woman emerged from the trees. Young, maybe 25, with skin that seemed to shimmer like oil on water. Behind her, 3 others, equally young, equally marked by abilities that showed on their skin. We heard there was a place, the woman said, where people like us could be safe, where someone was fighting the Covenant. Elara smiled. You heard right. Welcome. It happened a dozen times a week now. People emerging from hiding, from captivity, from lives spent pretending to be normal. All of them seeking the community Elara had built, the resistance she'd sparked. The Covenant kept their word. Facilities closed, resources redirected to integration support. It wasn't perfect. There were conflicts, misunderstandings, operatives who couldn't let go of the old ways. But Martinez was genuine in her commitment, and slowly, painfully, things were improving. And the barriers kept weakening. Elara could feel them every day now, thin places getting thinner, pressure building from the other side. She'd started reinforcing them where she could, teaching others with similar abilities how to help, building a network of protectors across the continent. It wouldn't be enough. When the barriers finally failed, when the things on the other side came through, it would be war on a scale humanity had never seen. But they'd be ready, more ready than they would have been without her intervention. 6 months after everything changed, Ronan found her in their cabin. She'd moved out of the main house once they'd officially completed the bond, needing space that was theirs alone. Martinez called, he said. She wants to set up the first joint training exercise. Covenant operatives and gifted individuals working together on emergency response protocols. What did you tell her? That I'd ask you. You're the one they listened to. Ronan sat beside her on the bed. You okay? You've been quiet today. Just thinking. about how much has changed, how fast. She leaned into him. A year ago, I was a prisoner planning my escape. Now I'm apparently the bridge between worlds, leading a resistance, negotiating with the people who imprisoned me. Having regrets? No, just overwhelmed sometimes, wondering if I'm doing this right. You freed hundreds of people, forced the Covenant to change, built something worth protecting. Ronan's arm circled her waist. I'd say you're doing fine. We haven't even faced the real threat yet. When the barriers fail, then we'll face it, together, like everything else. He kissed her temple. Stop borrowing tomorrow's worries. Today's are enough. He was right. And sitting there in their cabin, listening to the sounds of the community they'd built, Elara let herself feel it. Peace, purpose, belonging. She'd come to the mountains broken and alone, convinced she was cursed, convinced anyone close to her would die. Instead, she'd found family, found strength, found out she wasn't cursed at all, just powerful in ways that terrified people who couldn't control her. The storm hadn't destroyed her. It had forged her into something stronger. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Actual weather this time, not her power. But she felt it anyway, felt the electricity in the air respond to her presence. Tell Martinez yes, Elara said. Joint training sounds good. We'll need to know how to work together when the time comes. I'll let her know. Ronan stood, then paused. Luna wanted me to tell you. The new arrivals from Texas brought someone interesting. Older woman, claims to have information about barrier mechanics. Says she knew your grandmother. Elara's interest sparked. I'll talk to her tomorrow. Tomorrow, Ronan agreed. Tonight, you rest. Doctor's orders. Sarah's not a real doctor. She's close enough. And she's terrifying when you ignore her advice. He pulled her to her feet. Come on. The pack's doing a bonfire. We should make an appearance before they eat all the food. The bonfire was already roaring when they arrived. 60-plus people gathered around it, talking and laughing and living. Some were pack, some were freed gifted individuals, some were Covenant operatives who'd chosen integration over retirement. All of them part of the new world they were building. Elara stood at the edge, watching, and felt Ronan's hand find hers. You did this, he said quietly. Built something from nothing, turned fear into hope. We did this. All of us. True. But you started it. You were the catalyst. He squeezed her hand. The Stormborn, who refused to stay buried, who fought back when fighting seemed impossible, who showed us all that power doesn't have to mean corruption. Across the fire, Luna caught her eye and waved. Marcus was demonstrating some kind of combat move that looked painful. Kira was arguing good-naturedly with Garrett about resource allocation. Sarah was checking someone's injuries with practiced efficiency. Her family, her pack, her people. The barriers would fail eventually. The war would come. There would be loss and pain and moments where victory seemed impossible. But standing there surrounded by people who'd chosen to fight beside her, chosen to believe in the world they were building, Elara thought maybe, just maybe, they had a chance. The storm had come, had raged and destroyed and reshaped everything. And from it, something new had grown. Something stronger. Something that wouldn't break when tested. The clouds above began to clear, revealing stars that looked less cold than before, less distant. Elara raised her hand, let lightning dance between her fingers, gentle now, controlled, beautiful instead of destructive. For you, grandmother, she whispered, we're doing what you couldn't, building bridges instead of walls, creating alliance instead of isolation. The pendant pulsed once against her chest, warm, approving. Then Ronan was pulling her toward the fire, toward the warmth and light and life. And Elara went willingly, leaving the darkness behind. She'd been hunted, been broken, been remade. Now she was the hunter, the healer, the bridge between worlds. And when the real storm came, when the barriers finally failed and the fight for survival began, she'd be ready. They all would be, together. The bonfire crackled higher, sending sparks into the night sky. And for the first time since she could remember, Elara Voss looked at the future and didn't see threats. She saw possibility, and that made all the difference.